battle. Witten Forest is up 60-40 over Our Lady of the Rosary, and we're standing with a teacher for Our Lady of the Rosary, Mrs. Schwally. Is it correct?
Yes.
And they're very excited that you came out. Why did you come out to this competition?
I mean, these guys worked really hard, and they won the first. I mean, they won, and I wanted to be here for it.
So you're giving them that support.
Right.
And we have great support for Our Lady of the Rosary. And great support as well for Witten Forest. That's right. Excellent support from both members, and we have to congratulate and we have to give thanks to our parents and teachers for coming out. All you contestants, give them a big round of applause. Okay, now we start with round 2 action. 20-point lead for Witten Forest. Here we go with round 2. This is a fill in the blank. When someone offers you a beer or other drug and you just keep saying no, 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 as many times it is offered you, you are using what type of saying? I'm going to throw that question out because I screwed up the question. And we all know when Bob screws up the question, we have to give him a big boo. So 1, 2, 3. Boo! I'm sorry. All right, we move on. That was the first question of round 2, so we just throw that one out. True or false? Strength in numbers is the 8th way to say no and means, okay, buzzing in too early was Witten Forest. Witten Forest. Okay, so we'll repeat the question for Our Lady of the Rosary. Strength in numbers is the 8th way to say no and means more kids than bad. Okay, it looks like Michael here.
True.
True, that's correct. Okay, fill in the blank. How many ways to say no are there? Okay, for Witten Forest, it is Michael. I'm sorry, for Our Lady of Rosary, it's Michael.
8.
8, that's correct. What peer pressure type is when people call you names? Okay, it looks like for Our Lady of the Rosary, it's Michael again.
Teasing.
Teasing, that's correct. Okay, fill in the blank. Pot, weed, grass are all names for what drug? Okay, just a little too early. I'm sorry, Witten Forest, so repeat the question for Our Lady of the Rosary. Pot, weed, grass are all names for what drug? And it looks like it's Nathan. Or no, Carrie, I'm sorry, Carrie.
Marijuana.
Marijuana, that's right. Okay, here's a true or false question. Personal testimony works if the person is respected and what he says is believable. Okay, it looks like for Our Lady of the Rosary, and this time it is Michael.
True.
True, that's correct. True or false? Demanding, aggressive people are not nice to be around. Okay, it looks like for Our Lady of the Rosary, and once again, it is Michael.
True.
True, that's correct. Okay, we have a fill-in-the-blank answer here. Looking nervous and avoiding eye contact with others is what type of response? Okay, buzzing in just a little too early was Our Lady of the Rosary. Repeat the question in its entirety for Witten Forest. Looking nervous and avoiding eye contact with others is what type of response style? And it looks like at the end, Chris.
Passive.
Passive, yes, that's correct. Okay, now this contestants, this is a multiple choice with 4 answers, so allow me to give you the 4 answers before you buzz in. What should you do if your clothing catches on fire? Should you A, call 911, B, run outside for help, C, stop, drop, and roll, or D, I say buzzing in too early was Witten Forest. You got to allow me to give the 4 options. Here we go. What should you do if your clothing catches on fire for Our Lady of the Rosary? Call 911 is A. B, run outside for help. C, stop, drop, and roll, or D, all of the above. Okay, it looks like it is Nathan. Or Carrie. No, Nathan. Carrie.
C.
C, that's correct. I'm having trouble with the light there, seeing what it is. C, that's correct. Okay, we move on. People who help you and stand by you would be part of your. Okay, it looks like for Winton Forest, it is Jessica.
Support group.
Support group, yes, we'll accept that. What type of response style is it when someone speaks clear and appears calm? Okay, it looks like for Our Lady of the Rosary, it is Michael.
Assertive.
Assertive, yes, correct. This is a yes or no question. When riding your bike, you must stop at stop signs. Okay, for Our Lady of the Rosary, it is Michael.
True.
Yes, okay, true, yes. True or false? You should always wear a helmet when riding a bike. Okay, for Winton Forest, it looks like it's Robin.
True.
True, that's correct. True or false? You can lose self-esteem if you don't have friends to keep you company. Okay, for Our Lady of the Rosary, it is Michael.
True.
That is correct. Okay, that is the end of round number 2. We have only one round to go in the Dare Championship final round. And what an exciting battle here. The first round was owned by Winton Forest. Our Lady of Rosary comes back in the second round to take a 90-75 lead. But we've got round 3 action still to come, so stick around after these words from Waycross Community Television. The Dare Challenge. This is the championship round, the championship finals, and we've got one round to go. So let's put our seatbelts on because we're ready for fast action of round number 3. Remember, contestants, round 3 means 10 points for each correct answer. So this 90-75 lead is not as wide open as it looks. All right, here we go. Round 3. Winton Forest, are you ready?
Yeah!
Our Lady of Rosary, are we ready?
Yeah!
All right, here we go with round 3 action of the final round of the Dare Championship of 1994. Here we go. When you say something nice to someone, you give them a, and it looks like for Winton Forest, it is Armand.
Compliment.
Compliment, that's correct.
Come on.
True or false? True or false? A pedestrian may ignore traffic signals when crossing a street. Okay, for Our Lady of the Rosary, it is Michael.
True.
True. True. That's incorrect. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. Okay, we move on. A drug which is sold in stores for everyone to use is called what? Okay, for Our Lady of the Rosary, it is Carrie.
Over-the-counter medicine.
Over the counter, that's correct. True or false? Decisions we make sometimes depend on the gains or losses from taking a risk. Okay, for Winton Forest, it is Robin.
True.
True, that's correct.
Well, I mean, Sunday. Have you been following the news? Have you been following Dare Challenge championships? Because, I mean, look, we're going to end up finishing this at some point. And I, for one, am waiting with bated breath. Who wins?
I should have skipped another episode. How are we all?
I'm okay. It's been a long couple days.
I wasn't asking you. I was asking the chat. Yeah, don't worry.
Very nice. Well, they don't have the ability to talk very well, but I hope chat's doing well. We had a couple of weirdos in the chat last time.
Yeah, I think they migrated over to my chat afterwards.
They did, and then I think they followed. It was weird. They followed around a handful of people. I don't know where they come from, but it was fascinating. I did get a really good trolley rant out of it. So
a trolley rant.
Yeah, one of them asked me how I felt about the trolley problem, and then said somehow that oh, so that means it doesn't matter if Israel stops or not. It's like, what? Like, it was the most broken, mentally odd space. I expect very little out of people, and somehow they disappointed me.
How's the kombucha poisoning treating you?
Not great. I would generally recommend, if you're going to drink fermented drinks that you make at home,
don't.
Maybe there's a reason that you shouldn't. And I learned this last night very badly. Sunday's laughing about it, but it's the reason I'm going to have a little bit less energy today than I sometimes do. So it was not fun. And I woke up with a really weird, there's like types of hangovers for people who aren't proficient or professional drug and drink people from their youth. You may not know that there's different types of hangovers. This is not an alcohol hangover. So it's a whole thing.
It's not really a hangover at all. This just sounds like you poisoned yourself.
Well, I mean, it's types of hangovers. Technically all of these things are poisoning yourself. That's what booze is. It's also what most drugs are. I mean, it's a matter of expediency of poison.
Well, I think technically if you're using a needle, wouldn't that be envenomating yourself?
That is a very good question.
I had like a 2-hour long argument with my partner about this.
That actually is a really interesting question. I don't have an answer, but we do have stuff to go over today because I know we're supposed to have a fun day. I think we'll end on fun, but we have a couple things, so I'm going to get the agenda set up. What do we have in order before we jump into it?
We got 3 rough things overall. We have what I'm just learning now is 2.
The constitutional crisis is what I'm calling it.
Well, I mean, one constitutional crisis implies in 2 things. So we have 2 judges that have just been arrested for not cooperating with a blatant overreach of the federal government into the judiciary, essentially sending in ICE agents without a proper warrant to try and collect people who are in court, in the courtroom. And as a consequence of that, a judge has just been arrested. I'm not clear on the details of the second case in New Mexico, I thought you said. After that, what else? What else do we have after that?
I want to talk through student loans. There's a development today. It's more of an informative piece than a news thing, but it does follow in because we've spent a lot of time talking about Doge and these other shitheads. So I've got that. And then after that, I think we're going to move on to our favorite Kermit. And that's how we're going to kind of try to end our day on a good day and try to have some fun. He's going to be watching some of our friend.
Yeah, Trump's trying to call on student loans, apparently, just all at once.
So we'll go over it. They started this a couple days ago, but there's actually weird, awful developments today.
Okay. Imagine my shock.
Yeah, I know. So, and then we'll make our calls to action today. Let's see. Donate. You got the link in there? Did you do that? Did you do your part?
I did not. Did you not set up Nightbot again?
Nightbot should be running. But
let me get it. Let me get it. All right, chat. We accept super chats. We also love memberships. However, if you want to give us more money, use Stream Elements here. So they're pinned in the chat. YouTube takes no cut of donations sent through the pinned link. So if you really like us, consider donating through Stream Elements. Otherwise, we are very grateful for gifted memberships and for super chats, all of which will be read out by TTS, which Brooks hates. You need to understand this. Brooks hates when you donate and it reads it out through TTS. It makes him very unhappy.
This is not untrue. This is not untrue. So let's start with our friends in the judicial system. This is going to be a long fucking day, dude. This is going to get depressing fast. That's why I'm excited. We have Jordan waiting for us because so there's 2 stories here. And we're going to go over both of them specifically because it's important as we talk about it. The FBI has arrested a Wisconsin judge on obstruction charges, but at the same exact time, they've also arrested an ex-judge in New Mexico.
I would love to be able to see this article, Brooks.
I'm not sharing my screen with you, but I mean, do we really want your opinion?
No.
Why does TTS make Brooks mad?
Keep donating to find out.
I have issues, and it's just the way it works.
Brooks has issues. It's just the way it works.
Everyone's got their quirks and the things that annoy them about the world. Just deal with it. Just deal with it. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Is it a big deal? I don't know. Is it? No?
I think you should keep donating until it becomes a big deal. I think that would be funny. Personally.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. So we have 2 judges, and there's actually a lot that's going on here, and it's kind of a horrifying overall conversation to have, because we'll talk about the New Mexico judge first, because I think it's a more interesting case because it's less of a clear overreach and more of what's been happening is the Trump administration, our executive branch of government, has been joining the general push that has been happening for the last 20, 30 years, 40 really, of executive branch power, erasing the judiciary, erasing the legislative, and kind of putting the executive branch in the position of king.
I think I'll go cheer myself after this and watch the 2005 movie Downfall.
It's like Downfall, but you just play that one scene 90 different times as news stories come in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then another news story, and then another news story. The New Mexico case, I think, is a more visible case of like what they're claiming, less overreach, but I still think it is absolutely part of what we're seeing, this continuing war on the judiciary. And that's the thing that's happening. So, ex-judge and wife into custody after claims of hosting Tren de Aragua member in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So some notes. First off, never trust when anyone says this is a Tren de Araguas member. They don't have this many members. And they are not this powerful and all-knowing. This is the same way that we did this weird thing in the early 2000s. Well, a lot of you were kids, where we started arresting, everyone was part of the Taliban, or everyone was
what was the basis for calling him
Al-Qaeda.
part of, what was the case for calling him part of this?
The ICE claims it.
But on the basis of what? Tattoos? Surely not.
Tattoos.
They don't have proprietary tattoos. Tren de Aragua is known for not having
they claim
tattoos.
We'll get to it. It's in the
It's
article.
on its fucking Wikipedia article. I'm reading it right now. The organization doesn't have specific tattoos that signify membership in the manner of the Maras, such as MS-13 or 18th Street. Like,
no, they literally don't. And it's actually one of the things when they released here are the tattoos that Tren de Aragua members have. One of them was like Michael Jordan and in Air Jordans. And I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, like that's not really a specific tattoo. Like,
I mean, would you trust somebody with an Air Jordans tattoo?
I mean, look, there are parts of this country where that's a very common tattoo. It ain't my culture, it ain't where I grew up, but where I grew up is also mostly
Things
tribal
have got
tats.
to change. But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore.
I'm not going to acknowledge that. I'm not going to dignify that with any kind of response. Shame on you.
Why?
Shame on you.
Why?
Because I understood that reference, and if I understand the reference, it's not obscure enough. Shameful.
What's the reference?
Obviously, the reference is from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Brooks.
No, I'm actually asking because I don't know if have you seen Network?
I've seen Network. Of course, I've seen Network.
I don't know. You've seen like 6
I was
movies.
remember when I was talking about how the boys lifted that whole speech at the end. Like the world is a business. Like that. We talked about that before. Of course, I've seen Network. What do I do as a job? Of course, I've seen Network.
Yeah, I have a list of movies you haven't seen that Network would.
I saw Synecdoche, New York.
That's because I begged you to like 1,000 times, and I kept saying that it's the best movie ever made.
But I just saw it.
And then you just saw it after it moved to number 2, and Everything Everywhere All at Once took number 1. So
did it though?
Yes.
You liked Everything Everywhere All at Once more than Synecdoche, New York.
Correct.
Really?
It's the story of what life is supposed to be about.
I mean, I was less miserable at the end of Everything Everywhere All at Once, to be sure.
I found what? You know what? We're adding in synecdoche because I want to know what synecdoche.
It was really good. I was enjoying it. It was really miserable though. In a way, it was clearly deliberate. Like it was miserable. It was good. It was really good. It was funny. I liked it. It was fucking miserable.
I accidentally jumped fucking things. God damn it.
What did you do?
I clicked the wrong button, and so now we're on to the next subject. That's okay.
You can't go back? Wait, you have one-way buttons for the stream?
I have one-way buttons. Look, I am not a great JavaScript programmer, okay? So you can fucking deal with how shitty my shitty is, okay? It's the way it works.
Yeah, this is why people don't use JavaScript for their streams, Brooks.
Well, also people don't have this. So, just saying.
Have what? The high-tech blurry squares in the background? Yeah, fair.
No. The ticker.
The ticker. We got a ticker? What ticker?
We had a ticker. Oh my God. Really? You're just being rude to me at this point. Do you want to read this while we go forward?
Sure.
So I can type this shit? God damn it.
Although one of the problems with this entire process, Brooks, and this entire machine you developed is that I can't scroll down. Only you can. So if
I'll be fine. I'm watching.
Okay. A former judge and his wife were taken into custody after authorities raided their home in Las Cruces following accusations that they had an alleged Trendy Arugula member.
Arugua.
I know, Brooks.
Arugula. A trendy Arugula member.
A Trendy Spring Mixed Greens member living in their home.
This is the kind of show we're going to start having on Fridays, I have a feeling.
KFOX 14, CBS 4 were on the scene Thursday afternoon when the home of former Donna Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Cano and his wife Nancy Cano, when U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement executed a search warrant and a probable cause arrest warrant, and both were taken into custody. A spokesperson for ICE confirmed they were both taken into custody as part of an ongoing investigation led by Homeland Security Investigations, thus confirming once again that ICE miraculously still retains the power of speech. Cano was charged with tampering with evidence, while Nancy was charged with conspiracy to tamper. Okay. The raid comes after Cano had resigned in March following accusations that he and his wife Nancy had hosted Christian Ortego Lopez, an undocumented migrant from Venezuela and an alleged TDA member. Investigators believe Nancy hired Lopez to work on the home and then later offered their place for Lopez to stay. Documents from the investigation indicate Lopez displayed clear indications of association with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, including clothing, tattoos, voicemails, and text messages. And the voicemails and text messages I have not seen, obviously.
No one has.
We know that tattoos are not associated with Tren de Aragua, so that's just wrong.
And also clothing. Unless he has like Tren de Aragua 5-year meetup with like dates on the back. Like, what clothing is identifiable these days? Like, this is the kind of shit where you start talking about like, yeah, well, they're wearing red. They must be a blood. Yes. It's like, come on, dude.
They have like proprietary ball caps. Okay. Yeah. It's like, you know when Kanye West showed up on Alex Jones dressed like a thumb?
I got jumped in to Tren de Aragua. All I got was the stupid t-shirt. I just don't know, like, what do they think this shit is? These people are amazing. They're fucking, and again, voicemails and text messages. Hi, how are you guys doing? The Tren de Aragua meetup is this week. Like, what do they think? It's so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird.
It's just normal calls, right? Because it's all in code. And then after, at the end, it's just like, Hail Aragua. Hang up. That's how it works.
Yeah, and this has been ongoing. On Tuesday, the New Mexico Supreme Court ruled that Cano may never hold judicial office in the state. So it's a extremely right-wing Supreme Court in New Mexico. So this has been building, and they've been going, and it's like, yeah, it's this is something that is genuinely worth watching and trying to figure out what the fuck is happening, but not as much as.
Oh, well, never mind then.
There's nothing more to this one, by the way. That's the story. It's developing.
That's the story. It's just absurd, patently on its face, because crazily you can know more about how these gangs identify each other by reading Wikipedia for 5 seconds than ICE does.
Well, because ICE doesn't care. They're there for someone who is probably here illegally in some capacity. or is a permanent resident, or just not a citizen, or maybe is a citizen in the wrong color. ICE doesn't care. They are the
All right.
worst.
In other news, Dugan, as you can see, now identifies as a woman. Different Dugan. Wisconsin judge arrested and charged in federal court for allegedly obstructing immigration agents. There's actually a protest going on at this moment about this arrest. Do we want to pop that on? I'm kind of curious as to its status at the moment.
That is, this has upset people. And it will. This is literally just what's happening live, and people have not really heard this story yet.
No.
Has happened today.
And I'll just keep the audio down just on that.
So this story is interesting because this isn't a case where a judge has been like found with an undocumented migrant living on their house, and they're sort of abetting someone who, at the very least, is like living there without proper documentation or whatever. At the very least, there you can say that, okay, whatever you think about ICE, whatever you think about the process and how illegal migrants are treated, like there's sort of a legal precedent for that, even if the claims about being involved in a gang are grossly overstated, probably entirely unjustified, and it's being used as a pretext to send people to what very may likely be a death camp in El Salvador. Here in this case, this is different. So in this case, we were talking about this before stream started. ICE agents appeared to collect somebody who was in court, who was seeing a judge without a proper warrant. They were asked to leave, or asked to go somewhere else. And then the guy was obviously allowed to leave unimpeded, because here's what happens when people can't go to court without being arrested by an additional agency without a proper warrant. Your justice system is gone. So in retaliation for this, the judge, Hannah Dugan, has just been arrested for, quote, obstruction and concealing the individual from arrest, unquote.
And the quote from Kash Patel on X, and he's been doing interviews about this. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot. He's been in custody since, but the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. No, it didn't. It literally didn't.
The ICE agents absolutely increase danger to the public. Hey, what happens when you can't get people to show up to court because they're afraid of some gang of thugs showing up to
well,
I mean,
you might
it's
see
basically
a breakdown of
brown shirt behavior.
I mean, you might start seeing a breakdown of the judicial system in general, especially if you arrest the judge. The way that it's explained, again, they've kind of documented out how this went. And they're not in a place where they're straight up lying. There's stuff that happened, but it's, again, the nuances in it. After being informed of the agent's presence by her courtroom deputy, they came in to arrest this guy, but he was there for other reasons. The judge became angry, said the situation was absurd, left the bench, and then went into her chambers. Witnesses told investigators Dugan confronted ICE agents in a public hallway, where she repeatedly demanded they leave, saying they needed a different kind of warrant to make the arrest, which is, by the way, a thing a judge would know. Like, just saying, like, that there isn't just one type of warrant, but they need a different warrant to make an arrest. Dugan ordered the agents to speak with the chief judge of the courthouse. And then several witnesses, including Dugan's courtroom deputy, prosecutor, and the victim witness specialist, allegedly recounted seeing Dugan then direct Flores Ruiz and his attorney to leave through the jury door, which is a non-public area of the courthouse. It's a locked-off sort of private area. It's where they keep the jury separate from things. One of the witnesses told investigators Dugan stopped the two as they tried to exit through the normal door to the courtroom, saying something, "Wait, come with me." Flores Ruiz and his attorney quickly exited the courthouse before the agents were able to catch up to them. He took off running, was captured. Blah, 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 blah. After Attorney General Pombondi said in an interview on Fox, after the arrest was executed, that, quote, if you are destroying evidence and you are obstructing justice, when you have victims sitting in a courtroom of domestic violence, you are escorting a criminal defendant out the back door, it will not be tolerated. This is a constitutional crisis moment. Straight up. A judge has a lot of leeway on how they want to use their courtroom. A ton of leeway. And there's reasons for that. That we allowed this to sort of happen. And again, stopping an arrest that had the wrong, again, this is where we start having the conversation of a lot of the time ICE doesn't have warrants. If you, like, we've talked about this, they don't have warrants. They don't even have the correct warrant. They lie about having a warrant. They refuse to show the warrant. And here the judge called their bluff and they were just going to arrest the guy. But without a warrant, how do you do that? Well, they just do. They just don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't give a shit. Like, we're beyond them giving a shit, which I think is pretty fucking scary.
Yeah, it is. That's about it. Yeah, it is. That's it. And I do not see this escalating from here in terms of any kind of pushback on the executive branch for this overreach. I think it's just the culture is just too weak for it. I don't think there's a general capacity or an energy for resisting it anymore. And my general impression of everything that's going on is just there's this overwhelming ennui that is allowing everything to take place. There's no people are just done.
I think there is a lot less energy to deal with this. And again, it's not as extraordinary a case as it needs to be to really rile people.
Yeah.
That part I will wholly agree with. It's just not enough to rile people up, to be frank.
Well, people don't have a concept of like what this means. Is the thing. Like, there's no like I'm watching the protests right now, and there's like a. This is going to sound weird coming from me, but there's like a Palestinian flag at the event.
Mm-hmm.
Like the actual energy behind this is so diluted by just so many different, just floundering remnants of other like movements and activists and issues and things like that. I don't think there's even a clear focus on this issue. The crowd is small.
Well, this is how you get. One of the challenges is the number of people who are ready to be activists at any given time.
Yeah.
There is I would say a fairly finite group of people who are generally just.
Oh no, absolutely. Like, to be clear, I'm not saying like the smallness of it.
But this is my point, is because I'm agreeing with you. One of the things that happens is there is so much evil and bullshit being done right now that you pick a thing, and if you've got a thing, but you also care about that thing, do you not bring that thing over? I mean, I would advise not to, but this is where people are at, is the people who are activists are spread thin. They're protesting multiple horrific things. This ties into the deporting anti-Israel protesters for the same thing. And so the Palestinian flag makes sense, but again, only in that context. So the message becomes muddied or muddled, and it's difficult for people to become invested in what is actually happening here. And that is, again, they've said from the beginning, and Steve Bannon's always said it, that the whole goal has been to flood the zone with shit.
Yeah.
And this is more shit. I don't know how else to put it. This is just more shit. It's just flatly more shit. Right? Am I wrong on that? Like, this is just more shit. And it makes it.
Well, I think it's also, though, it's like, there has been a disturbing and fatal wires crossing of realpolitik and trying to think of what else. Like, as a consequence of everybody taking this, and this is one of the things I actually disagreed with a few people on. I think you less seriously, but I think, like, I know people we generally respect, people like Kidnutkin and so on and so forth. There's been a whole switch towards, well, why not just say shit to slander, quote unquote, the other side, and why not just say whatever you need to win, and so on and so forth. There's a problem with that general approach that we saw come to fruition a little while ago, before the federal election came up, which is that when you are making realpolitik decisions at the expense of any sort of, I'm trying to think of a less wishy-washy phrase, and some kind of like ideological commitment or idealist commitment. When you do that at the expense of any and all principles under the really like unjustified conceit that, well, this is what you do to win, that deep texture behind everything that gives you the resiliency to keep working effectively and aggressively when you lose disintegrates. And I think what's happened is people have become disillusioned with the intentions of progressive representation in politics generally, to the point where even when stuff like this happens, it's not even that there isn't an outrage about it, because I think there is a general outrage and general terror about it. I think the problem, though, is that there is an expectation that whoever manages to get in front of a camera will betray you within the span of 2 years anyways. Because that's what's happened. Like, as if to illustrate, like one of the last acts of Biden in office was to pardon his criminal son when he refused to do so, after he essentially gave away the democracy to Trump and his cronies. So it's like, leaving aside all the genocide stuff, like, nobody believes that they have representation anymore. Nobody believes that there is a side anymore. And so when that's the case, you have massive demoralization.
Because there isn't.
Well, that's true. That's the thing. It's not
there is no alternative. There isn't an alternative being offered. Like, this is when we're talking about what Trump's doing with everything. The alternative is just not. Like, that's basically what. Like, well, we won't do that, and it's like, but wait. Okay, look, things are fucked. Like, things are fucked, and they're fucked up in a lot of ways. Are you going to do anything? Well, we're not going to do what he's doing. We're going to go back to the way it used to be. And again,
or we are going to do what he's doing, just not as much.
Yep. And so we actually have again, the reason that this isn't going to last, and the reason that these protests are doing what they're doing, is because there is nothing for people to invest in that is clear. And Trump has that. Fascists, it's very easy for a fascist to be invested in power, because you just have to be into the structure. And again, that's how the nature of those sort of social investments become. And that, again, it's not a matter of them being tricked or anything. This is the stuff that they're
it's a return to the comforting images of childhood, which everybody has in front of them. Everybody wants to return to that. There's like a constant drive towards something that's comforting, and he is comforting for a lot of people. That's all. He doesn't have any. There's nothing. There's no criteria of he has to satisfy X, Y, and Z material conditions and has to, like, speak the truth about particular kinds of things. He's already the thing. He already did his job just by existing.
Well, and again, without an alternative to this, without here is actually the thing we can rally behind. And we end up doing the same thing we did, which is Joe Biden was a return to normalcy. That didn't work. Like, without an affirming direction. And I think AOC and Bernie are trying to find that. But again, they're not finding their footing, I think, in the same way. And as this happens, and again, we're not even at 100 days yet. We've got a long time. We're not even a third through the first of 4 years of this shit. At that point, it's really important to be like, what the fuck are we going to do? And there isn't a lot, because people are getting fucked left, right, and center. And that's kind of unless you want to stay more on this, which I think we can, there's not a whole lot to stay on. Like, we kind of covered it. It's mostly depressing. Because I think most of what we're going to start seeing is stuff like this next little bit, which is more odd. My wife, I mentioned in the other stream. So Linda McMahon and the Department of Education. Sorry, go on. Yeah. Linda McMahon and the Department of Education announced that they are going to be reopening payments and garnishing wages and going after people who aren't paying. There is, and always has been with student loans, deferral programs where based on your income, my wife's been using that, your income's lower, you don't pay very much. They work with you. They tend not to fuck people completely. And there's a reason for this, by the way, a very cynical, not generous or kindly motivated reason, which is every first year sociology student knows. You know what you do not want in any society, if you want people to be able to live there, you do not want a bunch of impoverished, hopeless young people with nothing to lose. That's bad. And when you put students into bankruptcy who obviously have not managed to make it because they haven't paid off their loans, when you terminate people's lives at that stage, but they're still there, that's a problem. That becomes a real problem. Those people now, like, they don't start becoming, oh, that's fine, we'll just siphon money from them. There we go. Look, now they're a source of income. It's like, no, they become a source of cost, because that dysfunction starts to bleed out into other things. Here's the thing. If anyone in this audience knows anyone who has a student loan, my wife got an email from the National Consumer Law Center. She's had a lawyer who's helped. Like, student loans are complicated and there's a lot of stuff you have to do with them. And he sent out an email just being like, hey, you need to see this on the assistance website. This notice went out. You need to actually screenshot all of your income-driven repayment plans now. So if at any point you've said, I'm not making money yet, and they go, sure, you need to screenshot that because
their records are being deleted.
Their records are being deleted.
They don't have the documentation anymore because
as of today,
went in and just started deleting shit.
As of today, they're actually worried that this will be happening imminently, which means they've got information they can't share, but they're like, hey, by the way, go take screenshots of your own shit. Because here's how it works. If that goes away, if your income-driven repayments, your deferred payment schedule, where they're like, hey, for the next year, 2 years, say 5 years, you've decided to go on a mission trip, or you've raised kids, or you just haven't been able to find work, they've deferred payments, which changes how much you owe. And if that's the case, and they delete that, you would retroactively be due an excessive amount of late fees, fines, and all kinds of other shit. This would be anyone who has a student loan that is of sizable size. And my wife's is sizable, and she's paid down a good amount of it. And then, time does it as it does. If this happens, this would be devastating to anyone who has a sizable student loan. And there's a lot of them, actually. There's a lot of them. As we went through, a third of all student loans are expected to default literally next week because they're going to start doing this. And it's like a third of all student loans. And they, as they announced, and Jim says, they announced they're going to begin garnishing wages. They're just absolutely going to begin garnishing wages.
So if you were a student in college who has student loans who voted for Trump, well done.
As a WW2 historian, as brave as the Allied soldiers were during the war, the fascist soldiers were just as brave. Libs cartoonift fascism.
That's a American Dad moment. Klaus and Roger are on the beach of Normandy, and Roger's like, it's incredible, boys really, not even men, and how brave they were, fighting a power they were terrified would be destroying the world. And Klaus, who's a German fish, says, yes, and they didn't even know how long they'd be defending it. And Roger looks at him and he's like, well, they were brave too, maybe less brave. It's like this great little moment. I adore it. Maybe less brave. I've always liked that. But just to read it, if the IDR progress tracker is removed from borrowers' accounts, it will be harder for borrowers to make informed decisions about how to manage their loans. For example, right now, if you consolidate your loans, your consolidation loan will start with no months credited towards IDR forgiveness, regardless of how long you were in an IDR plan previously. Without the tracker, it'll be difficult for borrowers to know how much time towards cancellation they stand to lose. This is genuinely this is really going to be bad for a lot of people of all ages, not just kids, but kids for sure.
That being said.
Oh no.
That being said, you want to talk about shit being made bad in a way that actually will create actual backlash. You suddenly have a whole lot of young people who suddenly have their money being taken away. A whole lot of parents who are connected to them, so on and so forth. You're gonna start seeing a lot of pressure on the Trump administration in the near future. A lot.
It's going to be excessive, and it's excessive in a lot of places. I think again, this is one of the things that a lot of people. I don't think anyone in the Trump admin has any concept of how.
No, they don't, because Trump insulates himself from criticism. We've established this from the Signal talks. Yep. He disappears. This struck me when he went golfing. People were waiting for comment, and he went golfing. That really stuck with me, because what that tells me is this guy's attitude, and the attitude of a lot of people who are in positions of authority where they don't answer to someone directly, their mindset is of the self-preservation of their mental health. These are people who are avoiding stress. They're playing stuff out according to a script based on what they think their constituency wants, like they're still in campaign mode. And then when shit hits the fan, or when they think shit might hit the fan, they run to their golf resorts and they hide. And I think what's going to happen is, as the consequences start to pile up, I don't think there's going to be a reaction until there's a reaction, because it's going to be a panicked reaction.
And it's going to be I believe it's going to be an excessive one. It's going to have to. Like this is not.
In what direction is the question, right? Because is it going to be like?
I think like, just anger. I think it's going to end up just getting. It's going to be. Again, just even this, when the things that stood out to me for this, it's the reason I want to talk about. Aside from, yes, it affects obviously my wife personally, and I know it affects friends of mine. It affects absolutely at least 1 in 3 viewers of ours who went to college. Like. The number of people who are
the number of conservatives who go to college, by the way, is lower than the number of non-conservatives who go to college, or Democrats who go to college, but there's a lot of them.
But some just of the language in here stuck with me. Like they ask you to take a screenshot of your dashboard, but then it says, if that's all you have time and energy to do, stop there. But if you want to have records of all your qualifying months of payments, and especially if you attended school during different time periods, basically they're saying, hey, look, I know it's a lot, and it is.
You're going to be presumed
50 pages of payment history.
Yeah. You're going to be presumed guilty until proven innocent by an organization that has started this by limiting all your records. And by the way, given the fact that Trump's attitude towards tariffs is to treat tariffs as a revenue source to fund tax cuts for corporations and for billionaires, I guarantee you part of the logic of this and the background is, hey, we eliminate these documents. Some people are too lazy to get those documents. We'll be able to get a whole lot of extra money from people we wouldn't otherwise, because there would be documentation proving that they have an agreed plan to pay these off. Now we can just take it now. And it's just a colossal scam. Your government is a heist. Literally, it's just the classist heist.
It's really awful. It's really awful. And again, what I'm seeing, I had conversations with one of my closest friends, is a fairly well-off dude, and he is much more cynical about politics than you and I. Like, he's very much about like this and that. He doesn't see anything. He's Canadian. He doesn't see anything in America that's going to be recovering anytime soon. He's like, this is actually now long enough and problematic enough. He's like, what's going to happen? People are not going to want to do deals or treaties or any sort of trade deals or anything with the country anymore, because it can be taken apart every single time. Prior to Trump, there was a tradition of not undoing the previous guy's trade deals, because that would make it so in the future no one trusts you. Trump not only undid all of those treaties and trade deals continuously, he's done it again. And he's undone his own, for God's sake. He's not even undoing Biden's. The tariffs broke his own treaties and trade things. So there isn't a coming back from this in the same way. There really isn't.
Because it's not just Trump. Like it's the entire system has been shown to be completely unstable and schizophrenic. Like it doesn't have the capacity to hold to an identity in excess of 4 or 8 years. At this stage, it's like when you make a deal with the United States, you make a deal with something that's going to forget the deal before you blink, before anything comes to fruition. A lot of these things operate on a time scale of 5 to 10 to 20 years. Joint projects between nations are often very large scale and very complicated and very expensive, and they take a very long time to do. You're in a situation now where you will allocate your resources, you will commit to projects, and then all of a sudden some crazy person will come into office who ran on misinformation disseminated to the dumbest people on this planet, and then suddenly just go, oh, whoopsie, and just pull the rug out from under you.
It's done. And it's like this. I mean, we're going to see, and if this is a portent of what I think it is, which I do believe it is, we're going to see that there's just a rewriting in the history of all of this stuff. Because the moment the government doesn't have records, which is what Doge has been doing, the moment that these records are deleted, it's whatever the government needs them to be. Because it's not a slow, painful machine. It's like a company that has just decided, yeah, actually, we're changing our rules. And that's not a thing the government actually does in these situations. Not supposed to, at least.
It's kind of why you have a constitution, actually. It's the entire point. Why you're written one, anyways.
In theory.
Like, here's the problem. You don't just have like a political issue on your hands.
I predict that we might get a warring states period where the states nominally recognize the federal government, but they are largely independent.
Well, actually, that's a really good. I don't know about the warring states analogy, but that's actually a really good point. Where I think what you're going to see is there's going to be a general dispersion of authority and legitimacy, certainly informational legitimacy, to state authorities as opposed to the federal authority, because the federal authority is uniquely untrustworthy now, which was not the case historically. Yep. Historically, there's been a general prejudice in favor of the federal over the local. That's not going to change. Now, curiously, this would actually be this is one of those things that would probably be prior to Trump coming into office to the favor of a lot of right-wingers. But I think right now the slant is in the opposite direction, simply because there's a general informational poverty that's now being increasingly associated with the right. And so I think I actually like that. I like that analysis. That's interesting.
Well, on that note, it's worth noting.
It'll probably be internationalized as well. Like, I think people are going to stop looking to the federal or even to state authorities for information. It's going to be more.
Well, for example, like California has designed its own trade plan to blunt tariffs. Now, this is Christian Science Monitor, so just take it with a
Christian Science Monitor. Look, Christian Science Monitor has a crazy history, but it's actually generally a reputable.
Generally pretty good, but they do have leanings. As President Trump takes fast-changing swipes at U.S. trade relationships around the world, Gavin Newsom is challenging the president's authority and taking steps to curb economic blowback. California launched a lawsuit against the Trump administration, this was last Wednesday, aimed at executive privilege. President Trump has cited to impose tariffs without congressional approval. At the same time, Newsom has said California will pursue its own trade relationships with other nations, hopes California will be exempt from retaliatory tariffs. That, just saying that, is crazy shit.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you suppose the arrests of the judges has something to do with the judges themselves?
Do you guys think that why judge is above the law?
Oh, it's Esther again.
Who's Esther?
Esther's one of the visitors we had the other day.
Esther, by all means, if they pay to be here.
I don't mind it. Yeah, no. Do I think they're above the law? No, but
here's a question. Do you think ICE is above the law?
There you go.
Like, the reason why ICE was turned away is because they didn't have a proper warrant. You're not allowed to just show up and bag people from a courtroom. What's wrong with you?
Well, Esther probably backs that, actually. So be careful saying that. They probably back the idea of begging, especially foreigners who don't speak English.
Law. ICE is the law? What do you mean? I don't. Where is ICE the law, Esther Judith? I don't see. Where is
ICE
that
is
written
not the
in
law. That's funny.
Where is
ICE, the agency that's barely existed?
Okay, calm down. Where is ICE written in law, Esther? Can we take Collins? I want to hear what she sounds like.
I don't.
Feds are above state. No, feds are not above state, you idiot. Feds are identifiable with state authorities. Feds, it's the United States.
Feds have more powers than states. I love these people.
No, they don't. What are you talking about? Do you know why it's the United States? It's because they maintain authority over their interior workings. That's why you have different Supreme Courts.
Also, ICE has only existed for like 20 years. Apparently they are untouchable. But the IRS isn't. Yeah. I love these people. They're great.
We're getting one guy. No, I wanna goad Esther into coming on stream.
It's the Federation of States, which is not a sentence that is anywhere. Like, what the fuck?
Okay. Okay. Cool it down. Esther, call in, please. Do we have a link for them? I want to hear it. I want to hear it. This is the fun day. This will be fun.
I haven't set it up. We'll
just add a voice call. That's all.
I don't I don't know if it's that
Okay,
simple,
fine. All right, Esther, here's the deal, okay? For every 10 minutes you don't super chat, I'm gonna block you from the chat. Okay, you're free to talk and have a voice on here, but you got to pay for it. Otherwise, you're an illegal. Okay,
It's probably fair.
You hate content. You hate content.
I hate.
You can't handle it.
I don't have the same desires you did. We'll set up a phone call-in thing. I don't mind the call-in thing. I just don't like the weird baity bullshit. The Federation of States, ICE, all of this. It's like, no, this is these aren't things that were set up. These are things that have existed only for 20 years. Customs and Border Protection isn't supposed to have, any sort of say. Again, ICE is doing this because of a very weird law that was added in adjusted in the 2000s that changed ICE and border protection from operating on the border to justifying their action range to 100 miles within the border, which means that anywhere there is the edge of the country, 100 miles inside of it, ICE has just free reign, which is an insane concept. And at the time, anti-constitutional, and it still is, but they've allowed it continuously. It's a big shame, really. And it's like,
okay, here's the deal. I'm actually going to break this down for you. Okay, a little bit of constitutional theory from a Nazi for you. Okay, this is what law actually is. Law is not actually a set of rules. Law is fundamentally a set of stakes. Okay, what law is a set of impermeable barriers that say this thing is this thing, and this thing is this thing. When you're talking about the legal structures, for example, if you go to ancient Greece and you look at, for example, the Constitution of Athens, what you're looking at fundamentally is a description of these are the different cells and their distinct inner workings that do not bleed into each other. God damn it.
Brooks, please play the clip I've dedicated to our dear fascist Esther in DM.
You can't play this and then not let her call in. That's not how that works. Why does the judge even care about the dude? The judge doesn't care about the dude. The judge is doing her job. The judge cares about ICE workers coming in without warrants, arresting people in a court premises, undermining the capacity of the courts to function.
There you go. She cares about her courthouse, and that's why she said, please go talk to the Chief Justice. And if they had, instead of just arresting and doing all these things, and the Chief Justice disagreed, would the Chief Justice then be arrested as well? Yes, because ICE are thugs. At best, thugs. At best, thugs.
Law is the separation of the judiciary from the executive. Law is the autonomy of individual citizens, so on and so forth. That's what law refers to. There are then things called edicts afterwards that specify the appropriate behaviors between these different things. But law is not just the rule by whoever has brown shirts walking around doing their bidding. Because when you say ICE is the law, ICE is a recent organization of thugs. They're just guys. That's not the law. That's not anything. That's a little brute squad. You're an idiot if you think that's identifiable. You can't. Do not. Hey! Copyright. Stop it. I don't care if Sir Shot paid $5 for it. Stop it. Turn it off. Pause it.
All right.
Stop it.
It's paused. It's.
Oh my god.
It's fine.
Oh my god.
You're so
you can't
nervous.
Play copyrighted. How many? Do you realize how many channels have just been taken down for that? Just don't listen to me. Jesus Christ. Mr. 2000 sub channel thinks he knows everything. Ugh. I
know. I don't think I know everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I technically have 2 channels that are sub 2000. Thank you.
That's fair. So do I, though. Actually, I've got 4 of them.
And I'll edit it. I love the clip. Judge Dredd is a thing. The fantasy is, and it's one of the things that I've always enjoyed about Judge Dredd as a. Do you know Judge Dredd, Sunday?
I do. I like you keep ruining my experience of the new Dredd movie because you keep pointing out how it was ripped off of.
I didn't say ripped off.
Yeah, it was. It was completely lifted from that Kung Fu movie.
No, it's the opposite.
Really?
The director, yeah, it's the opposite of that. I don't get the story wrong, so I may have said it funny.
I think you said it backwards then.
Well, so the raid happened because the people who kind of put the money in and got things going for a Judge Dredd movie hired a guy, put him in a place, they did it, they had it set up, and then they just fucked around for so long that they decided, fuck you, we're just making the movie. And they made it and called it The Raid, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
Okay, so the raid was Judge Dredd, and then
the raid was Judge Dredd, but like again, I think they were able to take a lot more liberties with it because again, that director really knows his shit. He knows how to make things feel brutal.
Isn't it all Japanese?
No, it is not Japanese. We're gonna edit that out at some point.
I thought it was. Hang on, wait. No, it's Indonesian.
Yeah.
Why did I think it was Japanese? I don't know.
I have no fucking clue.
Probably because it was in a gray building with a whole bunch of people doing kung fu, which immediately screams Japanese.
But they're not really doing kung fu. It's a kung fu-esque film, but like Iko Uwais is not like, and all the people, by the way, who he's trained with and worked with are not kung fu or any of that shit. He is a fucking brutal martial artist, and just the shit that he's capable of is incredible. Again, The Raid is incredible. The Raid 2 is, I think, has maybe 4 or 5 of the best fight scenes ever captured on film. The Raid 2 is like an artistic
They're pretty brutal
masterpiece. God, it's so good. God damn, The Raid's good. I need to watch those again this weekend. God damn it.
Oh, it's got that guy from John Wick.
From Star Wars.
3 in it.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, they did waste him in Star Wars, didn't they?
Yeah, he was in the...
Yeah, because he got eaten by a squid, like, immediately after showing up.
Yeah, it was like the most... I think I swore out loud at the premiere of that film because I was watching. I did not care for episode 7.
So the kung fu, that famous Japanese thing. Look, guys. Okay.
At episode 7, we're on Han's spaceship, and I'm like groaning myself out. I fucking hate this movie. But then the pirates board, and it's all the guys from The Raid. Like it's all of them. It's the actors, the stuntmen, and they're like, I'm like, oh shit, because in my head. Immediately, and what transpired, this is like 15 seconds of my life, because this is not like it is a 20-minute section, for 15 seconds. In my head, I went, and I saw like lightsabers with The Raid. That's all I saw in my head, like going off, and I was like, that's amazing, this is going to be awesome. And then they get eaten off screen by a squid on a closed circuit TV.
You know what's crazy too?
I screamed,
they went out of their
what
way.
The
they
fuck?
went out of their way. They went out of their way to make lore about how Kylo Ren is master of the Knights of Ren. Like, hey, you got a bunch of Indonesian martial artists.
Why would you waste them? They're like the best
why not
in
make
the world.
those the guys?
If you haven't seen parts of The Raid, Sunday won't let me show it to you because he hates good entertainment.
Because this platform is run by Google and they will take her channel down. And all
I know. You look. I also don't like entertaining people. I'm with you on that. But it was the most upsetting thing. I was so upset when they just died off screen. They're the best fights. There is a single knife fight in a white tiled kitchen at the end of The Raid 2 that is like horrifying. And it is 100% with special effects and all this, but they're actually hitting each other. They're actually doing, like, they actually did damage. They're actually hitting, like, the physicality of it. The director is a master of the physicality of fights. Like there's nothing like it. He did, if you haven't seen Gangs of London, not the movies, but the 3-season TV show, it opens with a pub fight that, again, he's the director of it. He just shows how fucking much he knows how to do camera angles and brutality. It's so good. Fuck yeah. It's so good. Goddamn. Now I want to go watch that. But instead, you know what we should watch?
I don't want to know.
Jordan Peterson appearing on
I
Hannity.
don't want to. Not Peterson again.
I kind of dug this.
Which aspect?
I partially dug this. I was like, because again, he is psychotic and weird and broken.
And very red these days.
More and more red.
He was looking like, I'm kind of concerned for him, actually.
Is Howard Bloom a reliable voice in philosophy?
No, he's typically known for literature, and he's also very dead. I wouldn't. I'm sure his books are fine overall, but I wouldn't. He's one of these. You familiar with Origin of Language? He loves that guy. That should tell you all you need to know. Okay.
Origin of Language loves the Lucifer Principle, dude. Like that's.
Yeah, probably.
Ugh. 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 Howard Bloom sucks, and he always sucked, and
Wait,
is
hang
not a
on.
reliable voice in philosophy.
Wait, hang on. No, I'm thinking of Harold Bloom.
No,
Who the
this
hell
is
is
a dude.
Howard Bloom?
Howard Bloom wrote Lucifer Principle, which is a book I knew because it was a fucking took off like fire when I was in high school. And look, I'll just say,
I don't think this guy's
this. Hi, how you doing? My name is Brooks. I was really into Ayn Rand in high school. I was a white suburban, middle-ish, lower upper, whatever class kid, and I wish Howard Bloom was dead.
Oh, the Lucifer. Okay,
and it's a big book on how the people in power should be in power, kind of shit, and just fucking a lot of Jordan Peterson lobster brain kind of shit, but like the first take on it, it was not good. Looking back on it, I'm genuinely embarrassed.
Alan Bloom's the guy who did did a translation of. He's kind of a shithead too, but he did a translation of Plato's Republic that's pretty decent.
Yeah, he sucks. Howard Bloom sucks. So you're still not wrong. That's why I was like, I didn't correct.
I'm trying to think now of like, okay, what's a Bloom that doesn't suck? We need a good Bloom now.
No, this is a dude who sucks. He isn't a voice in philosophy because I believe his background was actually specifically in being a PR agent and bullshit artist.
That's why I'm confused, because I'm looking at this guy's bibliography, and the closest thing that he has would be the Lucifer Principle or the God Problem: How a Godless Cosmos Creates, it's that kind of garbage.
He is that garbage.
So I don't think he's talked about in philosophy at all. I think you'd be very hard pressed to find him referenced in anything.
He's not in
philosophy. Maybe like I don't know, like maybe as sort of like an example of some pop writing in some like philosophy of communicating evolutionary theory or something, some super specific seminar or something like that. But I've never come across anything like that.
So sorry, Oblivion. Not good. It's not good.
Alan Bloom is also not great, but his translations are fine. Generally, people like his translations of Rousseau and Plato.
Who cares?
You don't like Plato or Rousseau?
They're fine, and I don't believe either one. Well, Plato probably, but definitely not like Rousseau is worth caring that much about translations. I don't think it drastically changes the text significantly.
Probably not. I mean, I would actually I disagree.
But...
I disagree a little bit with Plato on the grounds that it's really fucked up.
That's what I was saying. It's like I think Plato, there's more room for it, but Rousseau.
I think that the main thing is like, well, Rousseau's also more modern, so there's less of a cultural gap altogether at that level of abstraction. I think the main thing with Plato is that when you're dealing with people who are doing critical work, sort of undermining sort of like essentialist attitudes for particular types of political structures, we won't ramble about this for too long. Getting these translations correct is super important, because one of the reasons why we butcher people like Aristotle so much, we have this like weird, you'll even see people today talk about like mixed regime and stuff like that, is because of botched translations of Aristotle by way of stuff that's been written by Aquinas, and it's not great.
I always thought it was Hackett was the one people should be aiming for Plato. Was I wrong on that? I'm not a Plato person.
I wouldn't when stuff like that. I wouldn't go by publisher. I'd go by translation. So some of Hackett's translations are usually good. Some of them are not ideal.
Unlike PS, I take pride in my books being well worn.
I do take pride in my books being well worn when it's appropriate for them to be well worn. It's one of the reasons why I point out that people who have Penguin editions that look really new, because these things wear out really fast, they haven't read them yet. Because it's impossible to.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. I will also be back in 2 seconds. Brooks, play something embarrassing.
Pressure, the kind of peer pressure where people call you
I had to go to
names
the bathroom.
is
God
known
damn it.
as, Jessica?
Teasing.
Correct.
You said we had to go. I have to go to the bathroom too.
Here for 2 seconds.
You said play something fun.
Oh, I took my earphones off. I couldn't hear it.
We'll be back in 2 seconds.
Cigarette use, that's correct. Smoking. Good. Situations which cause stress are called, James?
Stressors.
Good. What type of response style is it when someone speaks clear and appears calm? And that is, Robin?
Assertive.
Good. Assertive. This is a multiple choice. What should you do if your clothes are on fire? Oh, I think we had this before, but we'll do it again. A, call 911. B, run outside for help. C, stop, drop, and roll. Or D, all of the above. And that is, who, Marcus?
I did it though.
Angelo?
Stop, drop, and roll.
C is the correct answer, right. Pot, weed, grass are all the slang names for what drug? James?
Marijuana.
Marijuana, good. Okay, snob appeal is when you think the item is I'm sorry. Who is that? Oh, okay. David?
Expensive.
Expensive or rich, correct. True or false? Indirect pressure is a type of peer pressure. Who is that? Jessica?
True.
That is true. Good. You should have it because everyone has it is what kind of media technique?
Bandwagon.
Bandwagon, good. Drugs which slow down your heart are called, James?
Downers.
Downers, good. Teasing pressure, this is a true and false. Teasing pressure is when a peer calls you names or makes fun of you. Who is that, Marcus?
True.
That is true. Good. True or false again? When your peers use threats to get you to do something, it is called, I'm looking for a pressure. Let's say this again, and this is true and false. I misread it for you. True or false? When your peers use threats to get you to do something, it is called heavy pressure. Is that true or false? True. That's correct. I'm sorry, Joy. I threw you off on that. That is correct. Good. True or false? Saying no thanks can be used with friendly and indirect pressure. Jessica?
True.
That is true. Good. Indirect pressure is used to tempt or trick peers into doing things.
True.
Hi. Okay, well, if it's moving of its own accord, you should go to the hospital, okay?
Well, I think the most important thing to do first is to draw a distinction.
The old demented guy. He looks more and more like RFK Jr. every single day. I think at some point he's just going to molt. He's just going to, RFK Jr. is going to pop out of his skin.
Good. And I was muted, so chat didn't actually hear the horrifying, disgusting thing I said to you, which is hilarious to me. So there you go. Let's watch some Peterson.
Between the political and the psychological, and not to collapse them together. So imagine this. Imagine that there's a group of individuals, about 4% of the population, who have a...
But I wanted to hear about the
Have you heard of the bees, non-gendered babies?
Yes. And I don't... It's fine. Have you heard of they bees?
Brooks, I think you might still be muted.
I'm not still muted.
They're saying you're muted in chat. Okay, you can hear you. No, you're good. You're good. Non-gendered baby. Why are we talking about this?
Because someone spent $2 and asked, "Have we heard of them?" And the answer is yes, I've heard of them.
I mean, it's fine. I'm not personally of the opinion that we should have giant penis and vagina aisles in toy stores. That's just me.
Tend to agree with that. It's a fun thing. My kids, I'm not super big on gender as a thing. I'm just not.
Really? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I know. We should do, as part of Friday, the picking Brooks' fingernail polish. That reminds me. So we'll do that in a little bit. I don't believe in gender as a thing. We haven't raised our kids to be super gendered as a thing. In fact, we buy whatever he wants, and Dexter went through a huge phase of being Princess Peach, being a bunch of stuff. And I'll never forget, it was a very surreal thing because I've always been curious, like, what would happen kind of thing. What does that mean? Because gender, again, is one of those things that isn't really innately built into you. It's part of the, world you live in and how you're set up and how you take in media. And just like 2 years ago, because he's got very pretty blonde hair and big blue eyes. And a woman went, "Oh, little girl, you're pretty." And he went, "Oh," and then sat with it. And then, later that night, he said, that woman said I was a pretty girl. I think I'm a boy. I'm going to be a boy. And that was it. And he hasn't, gender is fascinating. And the performativity and how we exist in society is fascinating. I don't think it matters. I think people
Synecdoche, New York is very interesting for that, by the way.
I would agree. We'll get there. It's in the list. Up next is Synecdoche, which is Shall we do Jordy?
Yeah, please.
Who have a set of personality characteristics.
Stop interrupting the man from trying to tell us about the
Lisa just
ball of hook-nosed creatures running the world,
okay? Just saying thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
So they're Machiavellian. They use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic. They want unearned social status and reputation. They're psychopathic, which makes them free of empathy and parasitic.
Can I just pause for a second? We just talk briefly about the unempathetic, lazy lackwit who does no research, no citations, whatever, speaks exclusively to younger people who aren't his peers, clamoring about the
I feel called out
of people of Machiavellian masterminds who
I feel called out
free things for nothing.
I feel called out.
You don't want free things for nothing. You're a crypto scammer, apparently.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I do. Oh my God. Look, Jordy is fascinating. It's disconnecting me from the stupid chat again. Back we go in.
Hello?
We're back. You're good.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry. Trying. I don't know why Jitsi keeps doing that. But
press play before it goes.
And they're sadistic. So they take positive delight in the unnecessary suffering of others. Now, those people also use false cries of victimization, let's say, to manipulate, and they're entitled. They seek vengeance when it's unwarranted, and they protest loudly and make very public.
Is 48 Laws of Power good? JP interviewed the author.
48.
I will speak to this one. I find it generally inoffensive as a book for children. I would not.
That's my review of Star Wars that gets people angry. I kind of want to watch Jordan Peterson's interview with him, though, because Green is generally, because I would agree with you completely. He's like
I will say this much. I don't think Green is a hack. I think he's close, but he's more like a really low quality foreign affairs contributor and that's kind of where he's at. Because like I'll give him this much credit, like the guy tries, he's just not there. Like he is just there. Like you know, there's a if you've seen those books, the Landmark like Thucydides or the Landmark Herodotus or whatnot, they've got like a bunch of the Landmark Julius Caesar. These really big just as copies of like classical texts on like military history and things like that. And they come with a lot of supplementary material. Like it's an encyclopedia and the book all at once. They're really good for that. But the guy who I can't remember his name actually. The guy who is responsible for publishing those is basically just a businessman. But he collected some like really good scholars around him that helped him produce something. Robert Strasser, that did some really good work. And they're really good as a result. I would treat Robert Greene's books as if Robert Strassler had done the supplementary materials.
Also self-lobotomized, if you self-lobotomized. Because like the 48 Laws of Power, it is shitty. It's also not accurate as a thing.
It is, but it's like shitty in the way that like it's like if Francis Fukuyama was really, it's like late Francis Fukuyama, but all the time. And
there's a lot of stuff in it that is based on the performativity of successful people rather than their actual behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality around how people get into power and their behaviors of it versus what they claim are their behaviors or they talk about afterwards, or even the things that literally got them into their position that they don't want to talk about. The reality is that they don't match up. The 48 Laws of Power is the cynical how to write a villain for a movie where you've got someone taking over a ski resort. This is not how you actually become a powerful person.
But it's a naive cynicism. It's not
No, I agree. It's naive. It's not overly done. It's just when you say things like never trust friends and always use your enemies, like that kind of shit. It's like how a teenager would read Machiavelli after learning about him because he's referenced in the Wikipedia article for Dumbledore, who Rich describes him as Machiavellian, which is how I started getting into political philosophy. Not even kidding. It's like that level, and it's like, okay, it ain't it's not Jonah Goldberg level, but it's a waste of your time. If you're here, it's a waste of your time because we can recommend you better stuff. Yeah, but like it's a book for children. It's not quite at Yuval Noah Harari level, but it's sort of in that ballpark. It's that sort of like lower mid-brow shit that's pretending to be like incisive. Well, and again, it leans heavily on the sort of symbolic or the representational space where the ability for you to fit these things into whatever situation. Successful people do have friends. Very successful people even still have friends and people that they trust implicitly. Like this isn't a television show like Billions where everyone's, betraying each other for money. Like this fantasy idea we have of everyone sort of out for themselves. That's not actually how a lot of this works. There are friendships and power structures made in these spaces that we wouldn't maybe call friends in the traditional sense. But again, this is because he's using terms that can be laid against other things and overwrap them.
Here's a hard pill to swallow. One of the weird things that happens, like when you're in the rat race to try and become more socially mobile and so on and so forth, you will encounter a lot of people with this sort of cynical attitude of using each other. Generally, people who actually have power and the security of power aren't like that. They actually do often have friends. They often do, for example. This is one of the reasons as well. It's like when you have families that will con, like that really is annoying, isn't it?
Who's a better thinker, Pol Pot, Lenin, Marx, Stalin, Mao?
Lenin.
I love these super chats are fucking insane today. This is last time too. Not sure where they're coming from.
Lenin. It's Lenin. No, it's Marx. Marx.
I actually think.
Do not say Mao or Lenin over Marx. Marx is a better thinker than Lenin and Mao.
I mean, Marx is a better thinker, but I think Stalin's actually did some really interesting work with the dialectic. I think Pol Pot actually did.
Hate you.
What? It's true. Like I'm just saying, like these were thinkers. They did academic work. It's interesting. I mean, it's obviously Marx, but the others are like, it's not like they're not interesting. Again, it's one of those things that you see on.
How is Stalin more interesting than Mao then? That doesn't make any sense. Mao is substantially more interesting than Stalin.
Have you read Stalin's work on the dialectic?
What?
It's a real thing. I mean, I'm just saying.
Have you read Stalin?
I think it's interesting. I think these guys wrote interesting shit. Just like I think there's a lot of people who wrote interesting shit. But again, these are dumb super chats. Who gives a shit?
Press play. Press play.
Public cries for reparations that would be self-serving. Okay, now the way those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as king as a manipulative strategy by bad actors, hypothetically on the right. And this report identified the same sort of people on the left. But it's not primarily political. They're wolves in sheep's clothing who look for where there's power and value and then adopt those beliefs as a surface camouflage so that they can elevate their moral status. Now, and this has become worse in already.
Oh no, but let him cook. This is good stuff. I find this is the thing that all the people on the right are really upset about, and that's why it's worth watching.
He looks like a theater hot dog that's been on the roller for too long.
Recent years, as far as I'm concerned, because the evolved strategies that we have for dealing with these psychopathic narcissistic types don't work well online. And so the psychopaths can get away with their terrible manipulations online, and they can find like-minded people, and they can escape from any reputational consequences. And so there's always been psychopaths. Those are the Pharisees, for example, that Christ points to, the religious pretenders. Those are the people who use God's name in vain and claim moral virtue and even religious devotion. Well, all they're doing is feathering their own.
They were hyper-partisans of the law. They weren't what?
Furthering their own narrow interests. And the web, social media, anonymity enables them to organize and also hides them much more effectively. And this is a problem in religious organizations. It's a problem in political organizations, and it pathologizes the whole culture. You know, most people, 80% of Americans agree on virtually everything. And then there's these fringe people, and they're not political. They're psychopathological narcissists who cloak themselves in political guise. And we all have to learn to distinguish between the political and the psychological. We're not good at it.
They really, really hated it. They really hated this.
Self-report from an atheist selling Jesus.
I found it fascinating as a statement overall because, again, there is a weird, I don't know, we always make that joke that everything that the right does is projection. And then he says something like this, and it's like, dude, really? No? You didn't find it fascinating? No?
I've just seen too much of it. Like it's here's the thing. If you look back at Jordan Peterson talking when he was my age, he looked much better at my age than I do. He hasn't evolved in that time. He was giving talks exactly like this from before cameras had gotten to the level of quality they were at when I was 3 years old watching Saturday morning cartoons. It's like, the more I think about it, a lot of people have given Jordan Peterson a weird benefit of the doubt. Like I remember like recently reading the reviews for his new book, Wrestling with God, and a whole lot of reviewers are like, especially like a lot of like theistic ones. God damn it.
How is the Mormon church richer than the Catholic?
The AI is fucking out of hand.
Land. Real estate. They own more real estate. Literally, I think it's actually the largest landholding agency in the UK. I could be mistaken about that, but I thought it was something like that. When people review his books, they're like, oh, look, actually, he sort of touches on this and this and this, and it's like they're looking at a baby. It's like when parents have a baby who's successfully drawn a line with a crayon. They're like, oh, you're a genius, little Timmy. And I like that. That's what I feel like is going on with him. There's like this weird, doddering, semi-sentient thing resembling something that was once a man at one point. And they're going, look at you. Good job. That's a big word, Jordan. Well done. And it's like, that's his entire existence now, is just people doing that. Even for like the philosophy tube video we're looking at, it's like, look, I read Jordan Peterson's new book, and actually, he's doing something in this chapter that's like phenomenology. It's like, Jesus Christ. Why are you guys babying this elderly man who's harassing random young people on Twitter? Like, just kick him to the curb already. He's a fucking loser. He's going to die of a drug overdose at some point.
Because they're starting towards that.
Because
the people who've given him sway and given him credibility are people literally like Jack Posobiec here, who have been pushing him for years as, proof that professors and smart people really want to go right, but that they can't because the colleges and university system is so far left that it pushes them out. And that's been the thing. So he's been the professor on the right. And as they have those people, they love it. The dark web, or the intellectual dark web and all that bullshit, which featured Joe Rogan as one of the members, intellectual.
Could veganism be considered a slave morality?
I would consider it the slave morality. Sorry, continue.
No, because animals deserve what they get.
Also, although to be fair, vegan cooking is, generally speaking, astonishingly good.
That is not what?
Vegan cooking is extremely good.
What?
The vegan restaurants I've been to here have been some of the best places. Period.
Oh, so the vegan cooking versus vegan restaurants. It's it's the joking.
President Sunday, throw him to the curb. He's going to odd one day.
I have no idea.
Vegan. I was talking about how he's going to die of a drug overdose at some point because he has a completely delusional notion of self-diagnosing his physical and mental illnesses and self-treating to the point where he had to be resuscitated in fucking Russia, resulting in him aging faster than Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith. But I digress. Vegan baking, vegan cooking is often phenomenal. Most people, like, as opposed to vegetarian food, which often is trying to very crudely imitate the experience of eating meat, a lot of vegan cooking really emphasizes the appropriate use of vegetation, plant-based ingredients to great effect. And often they are very flavorful. Their texture is very good. Vegan cupcakes, often fantastic. I appreciate vegan food. You wouldn't know it by the look of me, but vegan food is really good.
I do too.
Tempeh is the best pad thai protein.
Veganism is master morality.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I would.
The trick, if you're ever traveling anywhere in the world, and this is true for every city, and you want to go where the cool stuff is, or there are good bars or clubs or art houses, what you do is you go on Yelp, or you tell the taxi driver, take me to the best vegan food, because it's actually an indicator for the coolest spots in every city. It's a life hack, just passing on to you that I had passed to me. You'll just find the coolest place in every city, always. But
don't do restaurant steak. Restaurant steak is almost always disappointing, with very rare exceptions. Do steak at
restaurant home. What?
Restaurant steak, unless you're paying a lot of money, and in very rare cases, sometimes that won't even.
That's just not true.
No.
Here,
you buy steak from a local butcher and you make it at home, because the steak here at restaurants is terrible.
That's depressing.
It's always really good sauce on shoe leather.
What the fuck, man?
Was that Ollie Factory Ethics PhD paper legit or BS?
Which one? Olfactory ethics. What?
Olfactory
is this going to
ethics?
be one of those like what was that? What was that stunt?
Dude, seriously, I need to do more drugs or less drugs. I'm not sure.
No,
what's
no, no,
happening
no.
right
There
now.
was is that the fuck? I can't remember his name. That guy who sent the phony papers in. The phony papers. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who sent like those papers to those different journals to see if they would.
Wasn't it Posobiec? Wasn't it these guys?
Who? What?
You're talking about the fake sociology papers with like the
yeah, but not the not the James Lindsay one. The one before that.
All right, that's fine. I have no fucking.
There's a guy's name associated with it. The Lindsay's stunt.
He was the second shitty one.
It. Well, the first one wasn't shitty though. The first one was less. Well, I mean, they were all shitty, but it was less shitty. So-call. That's it. The so-call
affair. Yep.
There we go. Yeah.
And Bogosian. That was Peter Bogosian, James Lindy, and Pluckrose was the second one.
By the way, so-call still sucks for similar reasons, but it wasn't like the difference is that he actually had some little. He had good targets. Lindsay didn't. Lindsay was just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what stuck.
Well, again, this is
at every wall.
The presumption is, and this is, the thing I've always hated about these is this very idea that like everyone who runs a scientific magazine must 100% know everything about literal cutting edge science because like, how the fuck are you going to do that? How the fuck are you going to have someone who is up on whatever the cutting edge terminology and shit and studies are in literally every field and also have them be in a kind of shitty job reviewing papers? Those are
I think the main thing is that like they just picked literally anybody who would take submissions. So
they just basically lied.
Well, like, they're relying on reader ignorance. They're relying on reader ignorance about like what is a journal, what is like a good journal, so on and so forth. And I noticed as well they didn't actually like a weird part of the hoax is that it seemed like the entire focus was on the seeming absurdity of the elements involved in the papers and not on the actual quality of argumentation. And it turns out that some of the papers weren't the worst thing I've ever seen. They were shit, don't get me wrong. But sometimes good philosophy journals publish shit, not because they're endorsing it, because they're philosophy journals. If somebody noteworthy publishes a thing or something seems evocative, they'll publish it. That's not like, oh, look, we got the Vatican to sign this, to canonize this document. It's like, no, these are journals. They publish stuff that provokes thought and generates reader interest. That's the point.
This is okay. So this is a different thing.
What are you talking about?
There's just too many of these fucking things. This went viral because this girl from Cambridge. I'll send you the link in 2 seconds. This woman from Cambridge.
How about you send it to me now?
I am. I'm trying to do it as I'm typing. Okay. I'm talking. This woman from Cambridge did a paper on olfactory ethics, quote, the politics of smell in modern and contemporary prose, where she went back through basically just a fuck ton of literature and looked at how smell and odor was used in the books and how it sort of implied or
oh my god
race.
Oh, those fucking assholes. No, this is like that line look, there's a great line. I love this line. There's a great line in Apocalypse Now where he's reading an old Time magazine thing. He's like reading like some very optimistic description of what's happening in Vietnam and back in America. And what's his name? Godfather guy. My brain's not working. I can't remember proper names. Help me.
I have no idea.
You don't know who played Don Corleone in The Godfather?
Oh, now I don't. Now you've broken my
God brain. Damn it. Okay, don't talk for a second. Hang on.
Marlon Brando.
Carl Brando, thank you.
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando.
Carl Brando was his much less successful brother.
I'm calling him Carl Brando now. Where he's like, he's reading this, like reading some quote. It's like, things look much better and smell much better over there. And then he asks him while he's in this, how do they smell to you, soldier? You just spent like 2 hours watching everybody he knows like die horribly. It's been misery. That would be an example here. The article that you sent me talks about a sentence from The Road to Wigan Pier in which George Orwell states that the secret of class distinctions in the West can be summed up in 4 frightful words: the lower classes smell. That is actually super interesting, because the nature of ethics by itself, when you talk, for example, at Aristotle's ethics, he's specifically talking about those properties that signify or are associated with virtue, or those properties that are virtuous, and they're typically aesthetic. They have to do with like demonstrations of bravery in certain types of social situations, like war, for example. Demonstrations of magnificence. Magnificence is literally a virtue in Aristotle, where it is a generous, massive expenditure of personal wealth for the sake of beautifying the city. It's why ethics in Aristotle is the political science. Like, this is actually super important and interesting stuff. The idea that this is like some woke shit where it's like, oh, smell is racist. Like, how illiterate are you morons?
They're very illiterate.
The kind of shit that conservatives would be like. This is the kind of shit that someone like Roger Scruton would be able to appreciate. That's how obvious it is. This is stupid, man. What was the super chat about the olfactory ethics? That paper sounds really legit, like really good. It sounds
I actually did go through it. Did go through it. I think we actually even talked about it a little bit. And it's a very interesting take, because there is a way that very particular words are used when it comes to otherizing and treating people in literature, especially over the last 200 years. And her studies of how that has shifted and played, and how it's even shifting now where it's not the case. She gives examples of times where smell is actually, negative smells are actually used as a way to sort of stick it to the man, and the aggression towards the bad smell over the last 30, 40 years that you're seeing, like the actual usage of it. Things that had come to mind at the time was there's this great movie called Her Smell, if you can guess what it's about, but like natural odors and these other things that are starting to be seen as less animalistic and dark and awful and bad.
Yeah, by the way, sorry to interrupt you. You know exactly why this is being brought up as a woke thing, right? You know exactly why. Like, let's be clear for a second.
Woman,
you go to the home of a Japanese person or a Mexican person or an Indian person or whatever. You're gonna smell their cooking. Why? Because Americans don't season their food.
Oh, I wonder if I can find a tweet. Let's see if I can find a tweet about, say, I don't know, the White House smelling like Indian food. I wonder if there's anyone who said something like that recently. It's Laura Loomer, who said that the White House will smell like curry because of the white vice president's wife.
I'd be more concerned about the White House smelling like Laura Loomer.
Fair. But, I mean, plastic doesn't have much of an odor.
That ain't plastic. That's like some kind of biodegradable goo.
Literally, this is how smell is used. And you see it all the time. One of the things I have in the background often are police videos, the chest video recordings that they've got. And you end up having these incredibly racist comments made by tons of like white women being arrested, screaming that the Uber smelled bad, or he smelled like this, and it's smell being used in these ways. This is a thing. And that's why, like, this is a woman at an Ivy League institution writing about systemic anything. And that's all it takes, because these people are really fucking stupid.
I just want to end stream and go get some Rogan Josh now. God damn it.
Some what?
Rogan Josh. Have you ever had it? It's really good.
No. Should. We have a new Indian place. I'm so excited, moving in just like 2 blocks away.
It's like a curried stew with usually like a tomatoey base, I think. And it's got like lamb in it. It's really freaking good.
I do love lamb. There was this Indian place in LA that had a goat curry that was fucking amazing. Like, goat is actually delicious.
I haven't had goat.
I'm a
I imagine it's very similar to lamb.
It is a little bit gamier, a little bit different, but it's very good.
Lamb's pretty gamey. Gamier than lamb? Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that gamey. I don't know if you've had reindeer. Reindeer's up there.
I have had reindeer. I had a reindeer burger a couple years ago.
Nice.
It was very good.
We had when I was at Starbreeze, when I went to we had a big Christmas bash in the middle of Stockholm, and they had this huge spread, and I didn't know what everything was because I didn't speak Swedish, and they never spoke it around me, but everyone jokingly started feeding my plate with stuff. I didn't know all the stuff I was eating, and it was, I ate animals I didn't know that people ate, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Bear meatballs, which I was horrified by.
I once gave somebody a tour of our city who had eaten human.
Oh, that's
New Zealand.
Did they like? Yeah, New Zealand. There you go.
Trap muscle, apparently. I'm presuming the person had already died of natural causes beforehand, but I didn't ask too many questions because I didn't want to die.
I would also agree with that strategy.
Apparently, it's very chewy.
I'm less interested.
I'm guessing he was very tense.
I'm less interested in that. That's for sure.
It was a she, actually.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure that's the feminism we talked about. More women cannibals. That's more the kind of feminism I'm all over. More women cannibals. Jesus Christ. I don't even know how to mentally handle that. And I don't have a way to.
Apparently, it's like it's very similar to. It's actually not like chicken at all. It's like pork. Apparently, we taste like.
I mean, pork. they call it long pig for a reason. I would assume.
I assume it's because we're pink, but we actually do taste like pork.
Interesting. I don't have a segue.
I don't have a segue either, but I want to get one.
Boo! Boo! And look, may I then use this break in this awful awkward time to remind everyone that if you are liking this, if you enjoy what we do, please do actually support the channel. We have a link in the top, Stream Elements, best way to support us. Of course, membership, super chats, all that fun stuff. Our memberships. Hey, Sunday, are you folding?
Look at me, I'm always folding.
Look at beautiful.
Any good books on differences between fascism and social fascism? FDR, Biden, Dems.
Ooh.
There is a book that's kind of interesting, but it's more of a history
Social
book.
Fascism. I mean, do I say anti-Oedipus and just leave it at that? Or do I not be...
Well, no, because nobody can fucking read it. I would honestly say... Reich is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Out of date, though.
Yeah, but they're all out of date.
Well, I mean, that's my hope would be like finding something that's more modern as a thing.
Well, Matt McManus, clearly then, your favorite.
Oh, dude. Okay.
He's fine. He's not that bad. There's a book, though, that I'm looking for in my Amazon wishlist as we speak.
What do you guys think of Wordsworth classics? Particularly check out the Voltaire Wordsworth cover.
Hit and miss. They're fine. I generally, like, Wordsworth tends to go with cheap over quality translations, so I tend to avoid Wordsworth for stuff that's not originally in English. Voltaire would be one of those, obviously. But I have seen the cover for I think it's Candide. Do you pronounce it Candide or is it Candide?
Candide.
Candide. Which I now can't find. Weird. I thought they had a really good cover for that. Unless something of a different publisher, which is possible. They're fine. I generally, like, if you're going to go for stuff that's not in English and you're trying to like use it for like school or something, you're trying to use it for serious research. Generally, I would do research on like Reddit or somewhere for people who actually can recommend like specific translations, because often there will be people who have like PhDs in the subject who have like spent time with it, who will actually like go out of their way to just tell you like, hey, try this one. People will have arguments about debates. Funnily enough, I found the translator for the Penguin edition of The Gay Science on Reddit, shilling his own book, saying everybody else sucks. It was funny. But Generally go there and pick up the particular translations off that basis because they'll give you like really informed opinions on it. I would also recommend.
What is your official stance on Michael Sugru?
One moment. I would also recommend generally, if you're not going to go that far, Cambridge, Hackett, or Oxford classics. If you can't get either of those, you're generally going to be okay. In some cases, the Penguin's ideal over the other ones. Like, for example, for Capital, you're much better getting off the Princeton. If you can get it, it's a lot cheaper, actually, than the Penguin one. I think it's on sale right now for 50% off. And it's a beautiful hardcover. But the Penguin edition is ideal. The Oxford Classics edition is not ideal, even though it does have elements of Volume 3. It's trimmed down abridgment, and people don't really like it for various reasons. Stuff like that.
For me, here are some books that come to mind that I think people may or may not know about. One I've mentioned before, but just to go through the oldest of these, and I think it's one of my favorite sort of critiques of modern economics and how we sort of consider things, is actually Progress and Poverty. Henry George, Progress and Poverty. I have a very old version of it because I like the modern library. They're cute little books.
Michael Sucre is fine. He does some good lectures on YouTube.
We'll talk about him. But
they're not terrible. Like his one on Bergson was good. His one on Heidegger was okay.
I'm glad that I was talking.
You went quiet on my end. I thought you were done.
I don't think I went quiet.
Oh, well, you seemed quiet on my end.
Pretty sure it didn't go quiet. But Henry George basically pushed forward a very different idea of what it means to be part of a social order that has taxes or production and how to rethink things. I very much have fallen in love with the idea of Georgism as a concept and a sort of thing to sort of play with, because it was intended to be a critique of the neoliberal or hyperliberal view of what FDR and others were pushing, this idea of sort of a market-based economy. So a critique of neoliberalism. For Henry George, it was actually about production. And I think you'll see this in a lot of alternate economic theories. I highly suggest anyone who's interested goes for MMT, modern monetary theory. Georgism is up that same kind of alley where it's like, hey, there's a lot of presumptions, but what we care about is actually the productive capacity of people and the freedom of people to do things to make productive capacity. And Progress and Poverty is basically an outlining of Georgism, which is a fantastic sort of alternate take. More new, and there's a couple in here. The easier sort of fun read, if you're looking for something fun, is this one. Anna Kornbluh, she was on Todd, God damn it, I always get it wrong. It's Todd May, I think, his podcast. I bought the book off of that. Immediacy, or the Style of Too Late Capitalism. She's a very hardline Marxist, but also very, very interesting and critical of thinking about how media, which she mostly does like movies and other things like that, but how media and the way that ordering things works and the immediacy of too late capitalism, as she calls it, it's a really great sort of takedown of the thing. I also recommend, as I do every time, The Deadly Life of Logistics. This is Violence in Global Trade. This is a critique directly of the idea of the neoliberal order, but not as much as Wendy Brown's Undoing the Demos, which is a masterpiece of how the neoliberal order has sort of bled into and fucked with everything that is going on.
Her sequel to that, In the Ruins of Neoliberalism, is also very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Brown's great.
Yeah. I really like Wendy Brown.
I like Wendy Brown's, she's actually Judith Butler's partner. I like early Judith Butler. I like current Wendy Brown. Wendy Brown has stayed good.
I am with you on that. I am wholly with you on that.
Butler's kind of popularized and watered down a little bit. She's gone the Zizek route. Brown has not.
No, Brown's doing good work.
Brown's gotten like hyper academic and almost like unsellable these days. Like I think the last thing she did was that book on Weber, which is like, okay, that's not sexy at all. In the Roots of Neoliberalism was okay. Was really good. Wall States Waning Sovereignty is, I think, the best book on the topic of sovereignty since Carl Schmitt's Nomads of the Earth. Yeah.
With that, have you read Coercion? I know I mentioned it. The Art of Coercion from our friend Gio Stozzi. We were doing work on him, the Taliban and everything that he was doing.
No, I haven't yet. I was thinking about that.
The Art of Coercion is
Is that good?
It's up there with, if you're going to talk about sovereignty, statehood, or how states work, or how people work together. It's actually, as far as I know, the only book on coercion of the state against states as a academic topic. And
that's interesting, actually. I actually can't think of many cases of that.
I think he actually opens it by saying, I wrote this book because I started looking and I couldn't find anything.
Money.
That's genuinely
Seems
true,
like
actually.
Everyone
because
got
typically,
paid today. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Very kind, Glitter Crab.
Thank you very much. That's interesting that you say that, because I was actually racking my brain for a quick second when you brought that up. And it's like, no, when you look at international relations theorists, even pessimists like Mearsheimer and whatnot, typically what they will do is they'll refer everything back to a general equalizing field of anarchy where everything just kind of works according to internalized principles of the system, but there's no actual discussion of the role of coercion as such between states. It's essentialized to the point where coercive behavior is taken as such a given that it's no longer treated as coercive behavior.
It's really hard to say how much you're going to love this book, by the way. I'm even flipping through, I'm forgetting, because it's, fuck. I even marked up the book, and I don't usually do that. I usually wait for the digital version to write all over that. There's a lot in here that's.
Was that released? That's from 2011, so that's a little while.
No, not terribly old, but yeah.
But Gustosi's historical stuff is amazing.
I mean, he's a true academic. To talk about it, the difference between Butler and Brown, I think would be. We're seeing this a lot, and it's one of the really odd things. The last couple days, because I don't know if you watched the stream. I know you were busy, but I did a bunch on Gamers Nexus and the tariff thing, and kind of this horror that we live in, where a 3-hour, very dry but very good video from Gamers Nexus is basically the best thing to debunk what is going on with tariffs and to really show what's happening. And no one in the media is doing it. It's actually a very academic, factual based reporting, and I think that type of thing I'm noticing more and more. And for example, again, Brown versus Butler going the Zizek route, as you've said, Zizek going the Zizek route, away from the academic, the more boring, the getting it all out there, to the more sensationalist. That split, I think, is becoming more and more prevalent as we're watching, even entertaining stuff. I look at Cody Shoddy, some more news. Which is fantastic. I've always loved them kind of forever, but their stuff is even more than John Oliver, very fact-based, over and over, hitting people with, and it's dry with comedy layered in, but it's not sensationalized. And so it's kind of an interesting sort of trend that's bubbling up. I'm noticing more and more. It's fascinating, because Giostosi's work is very much not dry is the wrong word, because I found it enthralling. But it is fact-based. It's very fact-based and teased out with tables and everything. It's wild.
Well, it used to be the case that even popular media, even shitheads like William F. Buckley Jr., they would host actually interesting public intellectuals that come up and would discuss things, or journalists would actually do journalism. I mean, crazy, right? They'd actually do these deep research exposés. You still see those, but typically they're relegated to specialist magazines and journals now. When we talk about I don't think we're going to get to it tonight, but we were going to. One of the things that I want to cover at some point is Jordan Peterson had an appearance at the Oxford Union again. And people have this weird notion of the Oxford Union as being, oh, it's at Oxford. Oh, it's a big deal. It's well, kind of not. And
not
here's
anymore.
why. Well, not anymore. Here's the thing. It really does just mirror the general culture, because its function is to attract an audience with celebrity appearances. This is why, for example, people with literally no credentials to speak of, no achievements, people like Alex O'Connor will go and speak there. Why? Because they got a lot of followers on YouTube. It's imagine if you will, bringing on L. Ron Hubbard to the Oxford Union. You're not doing that for his quality as a thinker. You're doing that strictly for the fact of his being a popular figure, or his being an icon. And
Yep.
Would you two be interested in a chat with Vegan Games?
No.
I would sooner have and I would actually be able to have a more interesting conversation with an avocado. An avocado is welcome to come on and chat if you find one with significantly more sentience than vegan gains. But
I mean, literally, that's almost it's a perfect super chat during this conversation. The type of news and how people are getting it versus the alternative. The student loan thing is actually like a great example. This is a horrifying shift in how debt is going to be handled. For those who don't know, and I know I mentioned it, but like student debt has like a 20 to 25 year limit. If you didn't know, you don't have to pay after a certain amount of time because it's gone on for so long. And they actually do forgiveness at some point. They don't want people in debt slavery forever. And so the deferred payments thing amounts to basically working against that. If they get rid of it, they're actually going to force people to be in debt the rest of their lives for choices made when they were 18 and that aren't paying off, clearly that aren't paying off. So it's one of those things that's like, but it's dry. It's not nearly as exciting as other shit.
Can I be honest though? Like, it's not any less dry is the thing. Like when you watch these conversations, they are really boring. And they're boring because these are people who are fundamentally incurious. They've devoted all of their time and energy to getting the kind of critical mass of popular followings to make them publicly prominent enough to be invited to these things. But the way you do that is not by doing stuff that's interesting, that inspires people and that challenges people's preconceptions and makes them view the world in a different way, which is the sole source of interest in something like the Oxford Union. How you do that is you play to people's prejudices and you mirror an audience back to themselves. And people, especially deeply insecure people in a changing world who, for example, are finding themselves displaced as natural authorities in a heterosexist familial structure, or finding that their children are more open-minded about gender and sex identity and things of that sort, and you want to rein in control, you are going to be deeply narcissistically gravitating towards people who put on a suit, look less slovenly and disgusting than you, who will shoot back at you. Look, you are right. Everything you're concerned about is coming from a place of righteous truth and indignation, and it's everybody else who's wrong. And the result is you have a whole bunch of really dumb, really boring people showing up at these places, just mutually masturbating each other. And that's it.
And putting us in a position where, because people see that, normies, you might say, even non-normies, like just not those people, they see that and they presume that's what it is to be an activist, to care, to show up. And so they don't want to be that. There's a repulsion to being these things. It's one of the things that, like, again, the reason that Gamergate was successful is a handful of memes that a lot of people identified with. The big red and these, that they blew out these poor women who were like, activists, and they made them unattractive, but they really made us like, you don't want to be like that. And a lot of people went, oh, I don't know, because they have an immediate emotional, affective response of repulsion. But that creates the impotence in you. It's creating the impotence in that audience. And that's what they feed on. This is how the right works. It's wild.
Well, it's not just how the right works. It's how everything works. Like
it's not how the left works, but it is how liberalism works. Yes.
This is the one that kind of haunts me, not because it surprises me, but because it's so emblematic and so predictable. Alex O'Connor. Fuck.
I wanted Oblivion Remakester to post their bookshelf.
Why? They're just asking questions.
I don't want to see anime figures covered in semen. Thank you.
You don't even know if they have a whatever. Anyways.
They have a jar.
Why?
Because it makes me smile, makes me laugh, and it's funny, and it makes other people laugh. That's why. People
like Alex O'Connor, who build themselves as philosophy channels, sort of bounce around between other philosophy channels, move up as a prominent YouTuber in that domain, carefully talk like this so they can trigger an ASMR response without actually having to say anything interesting or incisive or insightful. They will get to a point where they are able, because of their prominence, to have a conversation with someone like Jordan Peterson. When they have that conversation, they will say nothing.
Yeah.
They will do everything in their power to make this person as cozy as possible, to let them just talk. Why? Because they're not philosophers. They aren't anything interesting.
Not at all.
They are happy to be there. They are now able to make money rubbing shoulders with anti-philosophers and hack frauds. And I think it's the most disgusting thing in the world.
It's up there.
That's the kind of person now who's populating Oxford Union events and things like this. And like, here's the thing. When this is the top tier, this is like the cream of the crop. These are like this is the intellectual discussion that's going on. This is where the culture is happening. When that's that.
Well, again,
what are your journalists doing? Like, it's not going to be
Joe Rogan. This is Joe Rogan. This is the thing people love. And I've made this comment. I like Keanu. So do not take any of this wrong. But one of the things you look for in actors for action films is you look for someone who is almost non-expressive. The reason you do that is because people who have emotions when they are in a leading role, that is a thing that then the audience doesn't identify with. The audience treats you as an object that is seen or a person that is seen. But if you are emotionless, for example, the film Avatar, main character he ain't exactly a wide range actor. He's got the emotional range of a fucking BB air rifle. But Keanu Reeves isn't much better. He doesn't have a movie where like he's really pouring it out. He is flat.
What are you talking about?
What?
What are you talking about? Keanu Reeves is a brilliant actor. The amount of emotion and depth and nuance he puts into a
single whoa. But that thing, why does it work? Well, it's because people watching put themselves in that position. That emptiness that he has means that they get to identify as being in that spot. It's old movie psychology. This is a thing that they've known. And so one of the things that happens, and in news, we've seen this transfer. This is the Joe Rogan effect. When the person interviewing is empty and they're just, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Sure. Whoa. And they don't have anything here. Nothing. Joe Rogan ain't nothing. There's nothing here. And there's less every single fucking day.
Who could forget his brilliant acting in Dracula? You didn't like in Dracula when Gary Oldman swung a sword in his face? He's just like,
oh no, you killed my dog. Oh no, my wife died. Oh no.
His wife didn't die. You're thinking of
no, his wife died in that movie. I'm sorry, John Wick. I was talking because his dog died.
No, his wife did. And John Wick. I thought you were talking about Dracula.
I referred to John Wick earlier.
His wife survives in
who cares?
In Dracula.
It's great. John Wick. The point is that Joe Rogan is that same empty vessel. So people watching, people taking it on, they get to put themselves in that place. It's why Theo Von does extremely well. It's what we've got is flat affect. There's a YouTuber who's been doing he's been doing cooking stuff.
I had something mean typed out and the little Brooks in my head was telling me to be nice, and here he goes and beheads the guy. LMAO dude.
I just know people. It's fine. I can't remember the fucking YouTube channel now. But it's, he's got one of those logos and faces on it that is the face, the clone face or the sheeple face in all the memes, like I don't know meme terminology. But,
you mean a Wojak?
Yes, it's like the boring clone Wojak face but he's got millions of views. And it's because his everything is the ingredients. And he goes, I read a thing on, and we're just going to do it. And it's like, I put this, like, that's how he does it. Millions of views. And it's like, it's an NPC thing, but he's not being an NPC. It's just how it's an affect he's putting on, and it's incredibly viral because what we want and what people want is when they take in content, not to look at someone who challenges them, not to look at someone who's confusing to them or pushes them, but someone they can just put themselves in that shoe of and feel that. That's what they want. They want to just feel like they're inside of the thing, immersed in the video. And this is for news, for everything else. It's the way it's been going. Future Canoe, thank you. It is a completely different fucking way of doing all this shit. And it's so frustrating because it's like there are a lot of really amazing like cooking shows and channels, and he just kind of like has this bland affect. That's his entire thing. And it's like, that works, and it works. And you're talking about like 1 million views cooking channel in like just a handful of months.
Well, you really can't.
3.7 million subs.
You really can't stand neurodivergent people, can you, Brooks? Jesus.
That ain't it. It ain't that. It's 100% an affect being put on. That's the part
Shameful.
that's stunning me.
Disavow. I frankly am shocked.
You feel free to make your jokes.
I do.
I find it fascinating, and it's this kind of shit.
Oh, can we read into
I'm a big fan of Asian buns, so I think this is a good opportunity to learn about the different types of them together. So according to my half-assed research, there are 3 general kinds of dishes in Asian cuisine that kind of looks like this: dumplings, buns, and bao.
You don't like to talk about his research into Asian buns, of which there are several kinds.
It's
I
an
personally
empty.
would like to learn about these Asian buns, Brooks. I don't know why you have to suck so much joy out of
Daily Dose of
Man.
Wisdom. YouTube are a good source.
innocently talking about Asian buns, Brooks. Thank you, Vegan Runner.
Yes.
No, probably
no.
not. Probably not.
Safe bet. You know what? We can just all of these. The answer is no. If you ask me, is any of this good? No, it's not.
Let's take 5 seconds. Let's take 5 seconds. Okay.
Should I?
Let's take 5 seconds. Okay. Let's look at Daily Dose of Wisdom, and we will judge it in the opening. In fact, we won't even need to, because I'm going to show you the.
I really like.
I'm gonna go into live chat, Brooks. I've just posted the channel there. Click on that, and you'll see very quickly.
Am I looking at? I'm looking at it right now. You should be able to see it.
Yep.
Um.
This looks awful.
Aliens or demons? Here's the facts.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
It's 22 minutes.
Do it.
There's visual evidence.
Nope. Joe fucking. You want it? Joe will be the one that strikes this channel down forever.
Oh fuck! You're right. God damn it.
So I have no interest there. I am just gonna. Where is not there? Here we go.
What I found fascinating in studying this as a skeptic is that when you study ancient history and you're looking at some fact,
what convinced them of the resurrection
about the life of Alexander the Great, for instance,
of God very powerfully.
This is, by the way,
conviction of the disciples.
Hang on. This is, by the way, exactly how academics, historians, and archaeologists talk. When you study history, it really means like that's not how that goes.
They encountered the risen Jesus.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. As I've been preparing for this video, I've been feeling the presence of God very powerfully, and I believe that this video could change someone's life today.
I needed that 10 seconds to be able to give you a nice fat. You should listen to this because you should know that the Lord Christ is here and he has risen, and the good news, if I may share it with you. What the fuck, man?
Before Easter, asking other people to share evidences in their lives of the fact that Jesus is in fact risen. So if you think that this is silly, ahistoric, anti-intellectual, etc., at least hear the case here.
Why?
I mean, just because you think that this is silly, stupid, illogical, anti-scientific in every single way, if you listen to the words, maybe you'll change your mind.
It's like that scene. No, it's like that scene from Lord of the Rings. Like,
I love it. I love these fucking people. They're fucking amazing.
Whatever you do, Gimli and Legolas, let him speak so he can put a spell on us.
I still can't believe Sunday did the racist. Are you Chinese or Japanese? Bit from King of the Hill, but unironically.
They were Indonesian. Freaking racist.
Also, if you want to start understanding why I hate text-to-speech, it is because it says things like unironically.
I actually find that charming. That's my favorite part of it.
But in this case, it actually comes back to bite because what's being sacrificed is history itself. Let's get into this.
I can tick them off real quick so you know what they are. The first is that creed I mentioned earlier. A creed whose historical credentials are so strong that one of the few Jewish New Testament scholars, Pinchas Lapid, said it may be taken as a statement of eyewitnesses. Second, we have Paul's
testimony. Is that guy's
testimony.
name actually Pinchas Lapid?
I love that.
Pinches
That sounds
Repeat.
like
That
a
is
really
name.
bad sex move.
Because
Or
Paul
like a
said,
really good sex move.
If it has Pete in it, I'm not sure if that's from me, but everyone's got their thing.
I encountered the risen Christ, and then he got to know the disciples.
Which was just what people around the world are.
I don't mean to impose, but I am the ocean.
Encountering today on the Damascus. And,
What does
Paul,
that mean?
was one of the Pharisees of the Pharisees who.
I got to tell you, I haven't heard the word Pharisees in like years.
Me
Today,
neither.
twice.
Yeah,
What the fuck,
you're right,
Sunday?
actually. What the hell?
That's twice in 2 different videos randomly, not even trying to tie them together, randomly. What the fuck, man?
Who had Jesus crucified?
Right.
So he was the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Taliban
exactly.
now,
No
coming over our
incentive
side
to-
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And it says on,
Wait, I want to hear that again. I like that.
which was just what people around the world are encountering today on
Yeah.
the Damascus. And Paul was one of the Pharisees of the Pharisees who had Jesus crucified.
Right.
So he was the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Taliban now,
He had no
coming over our
incentive
side
to-
kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like the Taliban.
This is why this is representational thinking, and the disease of it is it's amazing when you actually see like people who have no self-awareness whatsoever. It's amazing. I've gotten, by the way, I'm almost 30 in. How many cranes have you got? It's like a perfect crane.
I think you're actually almost 50, Brooks.
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you're talking about cranes. Hang on, I haven't started yet. My folding paper hasn't come in yet.
Shame. It's a big shame.
Right.
And it says on the Damascus Road, he's going to arrest and kill Christians. He was there when Stephen was martyred, giving two thumbs up, because Stephen believed in Jesus as the Messiah. And he's like, that's wrong. We're getting rid of these people. When on the Damascus Road, this brilliant God of light appears to him. Sound familiar?
Not like that. Not like that. That slower, not particularly sharp God of light that you sometimes hear about. No, this one's
This is very
sharp.
Clearly historians. Clearly historians. Clearly historians. And look at how happy and excited. I fucking love these fucking. Is he even interviewing them? What is this? Does he just repost this entire thing? He's
No,
not
it's the Alex O'Connor shit. He's literally just, oh wow, I've got these people with an audience in my studio. If they feel really comfy here, maybe they'll come again. And it's the end.
Are they in his studio?
Well, even look at the wall. It's covered in booze and it's got a V on it. That sounds like daily dose of wisdom, doesn't it?
But he's not ever seen interviewing them, or he's not actually in the video except to bookend it.
I guarantee you it's going to end up being a Joe Rogan set.
On report.
It's an entire other podcast. It's Sean Ryan's show. He just is showing straight up. He's just straight up like watching Unbroken.
He's just
10
pirating
minutes
other
of
people's
another
content.
person's podcast.
Just without commentary. Just like, guys, watch this. It's if you watch for 5 seconds, I'll get ad revenue for someone else's shit.
Daily Dose of Wisdom has been on Alex O'Connor show.
Well, that explains,
yes,
that
of
makes
course.
sense.
Actually, I kind of want to see that. What is that conversation like? Let's take a look at that. Can we?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting actually. Daily Dose of Wisdom, Alex, Hannah, Alex. Pardon me.
Famous. Where is it? I actually
Here
can't
they
find
are.
it on Alex O'Connor.
We all do have
It's
proof.
on.
Here are them talking for 11 minutes. Famous atheist confronted with reason to believe in God from Daily Dose of Wisdom.
Oh, so Daily Dose of Wisdom is like a shitty apologist channel. Okay.
Hyper apologist channel, yeah.
Oh, his head just saw his hat. Yeah, it makes sense. All right, let's do it.
Let's buckle in for the useless futility of life.
Facts, I agree. I guess that I would say that the single brute fact of God then solves the you don't have to make the universe a brute fact, the soul a brute fact, love a brute fact, morality a brute fact, reason a brute fact. You can kind of have one brute fact that's sort of upstream from those other ones without having to independently land at those as your final.
I can't.
Really
I fucking can't even do this. What the fuck?
Hang on. I want to. You will not believe what the response is, Brooks.
So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, like there are less brute facts that you have to swallow if you just swallow the existence of God. Because in a way, God just is all of those brute facts that the atheist has, just bundled into one. So the atheist sort of has the brute fact of reason, the brute fact of the good.
I hate this guy's fucking gesticulations, because you know 100% what he's doing. In a way, it's like all of these facts are just kind of bundled up into one.
Can you help me?
Oh, yes. Hear me massage your eardrums. Like what? It's like stop.
Never,
stop.
ever do that again. I felt that just too much.
Oh, you felt that, Brooks? Okay.
Don't do that again. Oh God. So wait, what is a brute fact, and how is reason a brute fact, and how is that a commensurate sentence that makes sense to anybody on Earth?
Okay, well, in Philosophy 2, as opposed to in Philosophy 1, there's a new enemy faction called the Brute Facts, unlike the Elite Facts and the Grunt Facts, okay? And they have hammers and they're stronger.
It's brute fact. It's in the text, in the description. Is the word brute fact.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, and this is the problem. I had to look up Anthony Kiedis to make sure they weren't talking about me looking like a worse version of that, because you never know with me. What Alex O'Connor does, and this is the reason why I despise him, is he talks to people who are just complete hucksters, and then he just mirrors them. And as a consequence of this, two things happen. One, those people get to go back to their audience and go, look, I talked to an atheist philosopher, a real philosopher, okay? One of the bigwigs, someone who knows what they're talking about, and they took me seriously. Wow, you guys can take me seriously too. I've got what it takes. And he gets to leech off of their audiences like the narrow end of the wedge. And this is what they fucking do. Jordan Peterson's done this for years. Oh, this really smart guy. He's so close to the truth. He's exactly like us. He's just got this little trivial detail away. That makes him interesting. Look, it confirms us because other people and other factions, even they recognize how right we actually are deep down. And it's actually one of the most cancerous things someone with any kind of social influence can engage in.
Brute facts is a philosophical concept from Elizabeth Anscombe, who wrote an essay called On Brute Facts. I'm just learning about this now. I didn't know about this. This is just, sometimes you read a thing and you're like, there's no way that has a background. And then you read it's like someone like Elizabeth Anscombe who's like kind of crap. And you go, oh, this is a stupid person. And it's a stupid idea. The idea is that a brute fact exists independent of institutional facts, something that exists or occurs independent of human institutions, language, or conceptual schema. Facts that do not depend on social agreements or human interpretation to exist. These are transcendent facts. And again, the reason that this is not a thing that is talked about in serious philosophical circles is because it was done hundreds of years ago and pretty well beaten to shit.
Yeah.
And here we have two people who have empty brains discussing this as if it's a meaningful thing.
Well, Alex O'Connor doesn't have an empty brain. He just has no soul.
I don't think he exists very much at all. So you have the brute fact of God. Well, God is all the other brute facts. What the fuck? That's like meaningless. There's no interrogation happening there. There's nothing.
Well, no, because if he's interrogated, Brooks, then he will become insecure and not feel safe and won't want to come on again.
Well, he's simply
because he's not just being glazed in the entire conversation. Congratulations, Alex O'Connor, by the way. You're a cheerleader for hucksters. That's your lot in life. That's going to be your legacy. You'll never grow out of this because you have no financial incentive to do so. In fact, every financial incentive not to. You actually cannot become a philosopher ever. That's foreclosed to you. Well done. Brilliant. Nobody will remember you. You're going to make a lot of money. People who are serious are going to hate you, and then at some point you're going to go away.
Okay. 1 second. Go around. Where's Mom?
I know we're studying lower life forms scumming on the seafloor right now, but could we get to Vivek Chibber at some point? Slightly more advanced invertebrate. No rush, though you're in a good flow.
Go. 1 sec. I'll be back in a moment. my son, his ball is in the front yard and he's terrified to lose ballo. So why don't you
just
yell
lock
at
him
super
out. It'll
chats?
build character.
One sec.
Thank you, Sir Shot. Appreciate it. Oh, Connor just takes a while to get there. I think his idea is to disarm people like Peterson and let them wrap themselves into a corner. No, that's what he tells you to bullshit. It's justification for making them comfy. He is not going to disarm anybody. The moment he disarms them and makes them feel uncomfortable, they don't come on again. That's it for him. William Lane Craig fell out of prominence. Nobody talks about him anymore. Once he had done the circuit and had beaten, quote unquote, all these people in debates. They didn't like talking to him. It wasn't fun. Because typically the people who would debate William Lane Craig were very lazy, very arrogant. And so even if they had a better position and his philosophy was very bad, because it was, they didn't perform well. He performed very well. It was one-sidedly beneficial to one party. He did the circuit, he did them all, and then nobody wanted to talk to him again. And he's just completely fallen off as a result of that. It's one of the reasons why he was the one who was being given a leg up to talk to Jordan Peterson that one time. Not the other way around, despite him being way more established.
Sorry, I forgot to mute when I ran away because my son was doing something really dangerous and I had to go. He's fine. He's just, kids are dumb and you got to be there to stop stupidity. And when he's trying to climb a 9-foot fence to get in the front yard when he could go,
oh my God,
when he could go through the house to get in the front yard. It's like, hey dude, hey, let's chill.
Yeah.
So Ballo is safe.
Good.
I've lost all semblance of any of this. So shall we?
That's okay. Be sure.
You have to swallow if you just swallow.
You have to swallow, Brooks. Swallow.
Swallow. It's a good idea generally. It's very nice to everybody. It's rude otherwise.
The existence of God. Because in a way, God just is all of the...
I mean, you would swallow for God, right? Like if it's God.
Those brute facts that the atheist has just bundled into one. So the atheist sort of has the brute fact of reason, the brute fact of the good.
I still don't know how reason is a brute fact. Like
I think what he means by brute fact is just like something you take for granted, which is not what that means. So like when he says reason is a brute fact, he means like the reasons inherent in nature, which, you think somebody with a philosophy degree or with a philosophical education would be a little bit sus on.
Fuck, it's great. This is great.
Good, the brute fact of the universe and whatever caused it, and the Christian kind of bundles them all together and just goes sort of
not like those
squishes them into a singularity
girly
and says, this is my brute fact, which is God. But depending on how you conceive of God, if God is just a sort of amalgamation of all of these.
If she don't swallow, she a blasphemer.
Brute facts.
Do not acknowledge that.
I smiled.
I don't know. Maybe you've kind of got the same number of brute facts. They're just sort of all squished together. You know what I
mean? It's amazing nonsense. Like again, let's break down this pseudo-intellectual tripe that he just said.
God just is all of those brute facts.
Okay, so God is all those other brute facts that were said.
That the atheist has just bundled into one. So the atheist sort of has the brute fact of...
So God is reason. God is all those other facts. There's no reason for this. There's no thought for this. It's just saying the words, which makes it hilarious. Right? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Reason, the brute fact of the good... The brute fact of the universe.
The brute fact of the good? Why are you saying it like that?
The atheist has the brute fact of the good. Do you know who has the... Yeah, I've never heard a religious person speak of it such a way. They don't care about the good. They certainly don't murder and kill people based on such a thing. I love it.
Nobody talks like this. Imagine someone going to the grocery counter and being like, and could you please put it into the bag for me? Like, don't do that. Like, nobody talks like that. This is like... People have just discovered what ASMR is in abstract. Do you think for 1 second, like, people don't do that on purpose? Like, seriously. Obviously. It's so gross. Like, just
caused
talk
it, and
normally.
the Christian kind of bundles them all together and just goes sort of, squishes them into a singularity of sorts and says, "This is."
I'm not sure there's a more way to make something more meaningless. Everything becomes then a singularity in God, but it is not a singularity because it's all the other things also, but it's also a singularity because words don't mean anything when I say them anymore. I just am trying to be agreeable to my person I'm talking to, so I don't, seem like I'm
Can we
bad?
find out what sweatshop employing children made his hat?
My brute fact, which is God. But depending on how you conceive of God, if God is just a sort of amalgamation of all of these brute facts, then I don't know, maybe you've kind of got the same number of brute facts.
It's fucking amazing.
They're just sort of all squished together. You know what I mean?
I think understanding God as a personal being is a really big deal because we, well, maybe we don't agree here, but I would argue that we are personal beings, both each of us. And I think honestly that mankind,
argue that, would you?
Like
Okay.
humans.
I adore that his first thing is like, God actually is personal. It's individual. It's for each one of us. Oh,
He's stuck in a room somewhere. He's just kind of circling around. Dumpty dumpty dum. That's how God is. He's just in a room by himself, just playing with his action figures.
Yes.
Like the question of what is a human is one of the biggest indicators toward whether or not there is a God, because and you even said at the start, you're like, I don't want to just call us moist robots or whatever. Like you acknowledge sort of the exceptionalism of us in relation to the rest of sorry, I'm smuggling in language creation, the rest of the things that are, so I would just say it's like, man, I
have no interest in raiding this guy's bookshelf. Sorry, Insomnia. This dude is a fucking waste.
have this profound experience of love. I think you do as well in your life. I have this experience of, like we said.
God damn it. Hello again.
Did we disconnect?
I did. I don't know how it works. I'll figure it out. We'll get it there at some point.
Yeah, I think we've established this.
Okay, we'll figure it out this weekend.
Yeah, God is in a rubber room with rats, ordinary rats.
I just
that
find
do cocaine or they will die.
It's just a wild conversation to just be on the wall of that. These are the intellectuals of our time.
I mean, they aren't. We just don't have any anymore.
Alex O'Connor is known as an intellectual of our time. People talk
by
about him
people who watch YouTube for their primary information,
which is most people.
Like, what has he published?
That's not a thing they care about.
What has he published?
They don't care about that. People don't give a shit about that, dude.
Like Lex Friedman has done more than Cosmic Skeptic in exactly the same domain. I just want to know what he's published. Look at his Wikipedia article. Okay, this is who you're saying is one of the intellectuals of our time. Put it in live chat. This is his career. By age 17, Alex O'Connor ran a YouTube channel. Wow, by age 17, he ran a YouTube channel. It's like a wunderkind. Commenting on philosophy, theology, and politics. He later started the Within Reason podcast, in which he interviewed guests including Robert Barron, Richard Dawkins, William Lane Craig, Sam Harris, and Jordan Peterson. In May 2019, O'Connor participated in a debate at Oxford University where he argued that atheism explains reality better than Islam.
According to Echo Explore in chat, Brooks is being totally unfair to Alex. Dare you cross swords?
No.
October. Look. So in 2019, he was in a debate at Oxford University where he argued that atheism explains reality better than Muhammad flying to the moon on a winged horse. And then 4 years later, he debated Piers Morgan about the monarchy. And then he debated Peter Hitchens about drugs. And then Peter Hitchens left because he didn't like him. And then he debated that God is a delusion at Oxford Union. And then 2 years later, he was on Jubilee, that place where Alec Gunter went on. So, he's like a serious intellectual and he does serious stuff. He hasn't written anything. He hasn't done anything of note. He's contributed nothing to philosophy or politics or whatever. But he was there. He's kind of sort of there sometimes. So, you know, like, this is one of our intellectuals. Okay, in the 20s they got Henri Bergson, and later on they got like Martin Heidegger and whatnot. We get ex-vegan guy who got led into the same room with Jordan Peterson.
That's probably not far off from reality.
Yeah,
I mean, we have, again, it's the empty space, and again, the affect of the accent, the intelligent accent, makes him just very much in a very particular position. It's wild. Oh, man. What the fuck? Dude, what the fuck, Sunday?
Just awareness of
I know,
self,
right?
sort of. I'm thinking,
I don't know
can't
what you've
deny
done
that
with the I look so bad today. Oh my god. Like,
what? You look
puffy
fine.
Gary Oldman. Ugh. Nah,
Huh?
it's the I need to get out and get some sunlight.
Probably.
Dear Lord. I look like Gary Oldman's Dracula with slightly less wrinkles, and it looks worse actually.
Gary Oldman's Dracula was awesome.
Because, you
It
know,
was.
what you were
You
saying
don't want to
about
look like that though.
And each of those things are just at the most intuitive, basic level before us. And all that I'm saying is the God hypothesis, if you will, it's not just I'm working upstream and cramming them into this thing that I'm then calling God. It's basically, I would argue, more logical to say that mind begets mind than that matter begets mind, or that love begets love than to say
Mind
that
is
matter
stored in the mind balls.
Mind begets mind, because I don't understand what mind is or how any of these things work. And my overly simplistic understanding of everything allows me to collapse them all into a single point, because I'm generally uneducated on how anything works. That's why I'm able to switch these things around and utilize sort of a larger symbolic language that allows a structure to be invested in, where everything kind of comes back to whatever mommy and daddy taught me when I was very little. And I really want that. Please don't hurt me.
Let's interrogate that for 5 seconds. Mind begets mind. Where?
What is mind?
Where?
What is mind?
Where the fuck is this happening? Okay, you got there's one mind over here, okay? And it's in where's the mind? Well, it's in mind. There's mind in mind, and then it had a child. Like, what are you talking? Like,
Well,
think
because
about this for 5 goddamn seconds.
It sounds smart. This is the way, I mean, Christian apologetics has always done this, where it utilizes language that is just outside of the realm of the average person. And so it sounds poetic. It sounds considered. It sounds interesting. But at best, it is bumper sticker logic that doesn't have any other larger systemic understanding or grasp of what it's even saying. And that's all he is. That's what his existence is. We can clearly see that.
begets lover, like all these different areas, morality, love, rationality.
Yes.
I'm saying it actually is more logical to start with God and then to kind of go downstream.
As a tip, there's no such thing as more logical. That's not a thing that exists. Logic isn't a subset of reality in some capacity. Logic is a system of abstractions that allow us to review arguments within a very particular notation, the same way you would for a mathematical, sort of formula. It doesn't mean that something is more or less logical. It's like saying something is more or less mathematical. That's not sensical
Well, I mean,
in and of itself.
You would think that because your logic levels are just not there, right?
It's because I know what logic is.
They're kind of no. You think you know what logic is, but you're kind of blocked off, unfortunately. You aren't at that logical level where this becomes known to you.
Yeah.
Rather than like it's not the only way I can see not having some kind of a patchwork quilt philosophy where there's like different pieces that are getting kind of placed together in amalgamation is just accepting the single brute fact of God.
See, I think that's a very honest statement.
We made it. Everybody, welcome to Fun Day Friday.
This is our fun day. We got finally fun, at least. But I think that statement is actually very honest. He doesn't have the ability to imagine anything beyond what he understands. What he doesn't have is also the self-awareness to go, oh, I also don't have the ability to imagine more, but I also am not all-knowing. Because he is not himself God, but he wants to believe he is. So therefore, everything that he believes is the limit. And he can't imagine any other reason. He can't imagine that someone might have a completely cohesive ontological view of everything that doesn't necessitate a God in any meaningful sense, unless you're talking about a Spinozist God, but that's a completely different beast. He can't imagine it. I believe him because he's stupid.
Well, he's actually not stupid. Is the thing.
He is.
It's self.
He is.
Yeah, but he is, but for a reason. It's self-inflicted stupidity. It's not that he lacks faculties. The problem is that you have people who are raised in a situation where this is their exposure to these questions. Curiosity? No. The reason why they start asking questions about these is because they suddenly occurs to them, hey, what if actually when I die I'm not in a theme park and everything I like is just there forever and ever? And oh no, shit. And these other people, the scary people with glasses and suits on, they say that, that's actually exactly what happens. But then other person with glasses and a suit on says, they're wrong. They didn't think about it. And then a couple of those blowhards get into the same room with that guy and they didn't prepare. So they have a debate doesn't go very well. And he can just go, good. Glad that's over with. Those people are dumb. We can focus on the real questions over here, which is just reiterating the mantra from your childhood over and over again until it's too late and you've invested too much of your life to dare actually question these things in the future. That's basically what it is. This is one of the reasons why the whole apologetics movement is anti-intellectual and just thought aborting. It's not even a matter of like hostility towards the thesis. I'm not an atheist and certainly not in that sense. But like the attitude it engenders is one in which your entire engagement with philosophy has to do with using a pretense of that engagement to justify ignoring people who are saying stuff that contradicts things that you have not made yourself emotionally independent enough from to actually judge. And that's it. It's this is one of the reasons why, again, like in this conversation, I don't hate the guy with the Jesus hat. I hate Alex O'Connor because what he is doing is so cynical and actually harmful, where he's giving this person and the people who watch this the impression that, look, serious people, really serious people, they take you seriously. The really smart ones, they think there's something to this thing that took you absolutely no work to get towards, and that is entirely motivated by a childhood fear of what mommy and daddy said not being true. And that's it. I'm
going to say that if this is the YouTuber you're going to say is not being cynical, I'm skeptical, because it's been a conversation we've had before that there's a lot of cynicism in all these people, that they do everything.
Oh, you mean the Jesus hat guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's being cynical, but I also think he's being cynical in a way that is sort of. I think Alex O'Connor has to talk to himself and tell himself that he is going to behave in a certain way with this person.
Alex O'Connor, if you watch, understands the art of the interview. The art of the interview, when you are an interviewer particularly, is to say things that allow things to move forward and seem like you know what you're talking about, but not to put forward any ideas of your own necessarily. It's
I agree with that.
reframing the other person. He does it very quickly, shortly, and quickly, and he moves on. And then the other person, who's this Jesus Christ is Lord moron, he does his thing. And
it's so look, it's sort of like how I don't hate Jordan Peterson, because I think Jordan Peterson is actually submerged fully in his own excellence.
Well, I don't hate this guy. I just think he sucks as a person. Yeah. Like he's bad at being a person. Yeah, and again, the nature of the belief structures for all of this is just this very weird silliness of linguistic tricks that he's playing on himself.
Yeah.
And others, and on others, and making lots of money doing it,
but he's also doing it on himself. So there's an element of pity there that that doesn't temper my opinion of Alex.
Long time, first time. Would you comment on Jay Dyer's use of transcendental argument for God?
Maybe we'll look at it sometime.
We'll finish this off. I think it's worth a convo maybe, because it does connect into this a little bit.
I'm actually not familiar with Jay Dyer's argument for God.
Oh, we'll get there then. It'll be interesting.
If you kind of follow what I mean.
I totally understand what you mean. By the way that you just contrasted mind begetting mind with matter begetting mind, one important thing to qualify here is that, of course, if God is the creator of the material universe, then you have to posit that mind creates matter.
Of course.
Which might seem like easier to do because the mind is the mind. It can choose to do so.
This is so lame. I'm sorry, like causally, like you need to figure out what the location of transference is where the mind stuff starts turning into the matter stuff. Like what?
God is dead. God remains dead. We have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, murderer of murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all the world is yet owned had bled to death under our knives? Who will wipe his blood off us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement, sacred games shall we have to invent? Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods to appear worthy of it? The dichotomy left behind by the Christianity and the death of God, the mind and matter dichotomy, is genuinely one of the more horrific things that people accept and run with, and it's a thing that is just wildly at the center of all these problems.
He was reading from J.K. Rowling's The Half-Blood Prince, by the way.
Yes, J.K. Rowling wrote that.
Stuff. But if you're talking about like the substances, I mean, the problem with materialism begetting consciousness is that atoms don't seem to be the kind of thing that consciousness is. Consciousness is like a different substance. It's a different kind of thing.
What? Wait, hang on. Wait. Wait a minute, what? Atoms don't seem to be. When I look under a microscope and I look at an atom and I look at a piece of consciousness, they look different. Like they're shaped differently.
Well, I got to tell you, I pulled my consciousness out of a jar I'd been storing it in. It did not look like atoms, which I also see all the time.
Did Adam consent to you taking his consciousness out of a jar?
Shit.
Like,
holy fuck.
Like, okay, here.
Yeah, it's the wrong jar.
Oh, shit.
Ah, you win. That's chatter of the day right there, folks. Chatter of the day. Fucking Christ.
Okay. Okay. Alex hasn't read any philosophy, which is
he's read none. He doesn't know what materialism is. He thinks it's physicalism. He's another one of those.
He thinks mind. He thinks spirit is when people look like floating sperms. That's what he thinks. That's what he thinks spiritualism is. He thinks it's Casper the Friendly Ghost. This is
so sad.
This is embarrassing, actually.
Together, you don't get a mind. But there is the same.
So here's an example like this, because I like this one, because I find this kind of I enjoy this one actually, because it's monistic and dualistic at the same time. Which I think it's neat. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Henri Bergson. What is the difference between matter and mind? Well, mind is identifiable with action, with movement, and so on and so forth. So like the now that it's actually that is mind for Bergson. But also, matter appears to be movement also at a very, very basic fundamental level, and so they're actually divergent cases of the exact same thing. What this leads to is a situation where when you're talking about mind versus matter, you're not talking about we've got a jar full of this wispy gray stuff and a jar full of this rocky brown stuff, and we need to figure out how this fits into this using nothing but this. That's not how it's talked about. It's like intellectual content, like just no jar of gray stuff. Yeah, it's like if you were to like snip the tail off of like a ghost from Casper.
It's so fucking
that people
like
often don't kind
jelly.
of clock or think about, which is that you can take as much mind, like disembodied mind, as you want and put it together, and you don't get matter.
You can have as much disembodied mind as you want and just roll it.
I love it's tautologically true. Hey, you can have all the stuff that's not made of matter that I'm just presupposing isn't material, and it's not material. Like
it's not material. Here's a jar of
everyone, please, dear God, pick up a book on symbolic logic and fucking read it. Because it makes it it makes it painful to listen to shit like this, but allows you to see things in terms of how they teach symbolic logic.
Listen.
So when someone lays out the thing where they say, hey, this immaterial thing is not material, you get to go, yeah, and like you're kind of doing
look, Brooks,
nothing.
Brooks, listen, it's very
you're
simple,
doing
okay?
Nothing.
It's very simple. Long ago, before the existence of time and space, there was something and it ripped in half.
Is Dillahunty a coward walking out Andrew Wilson?
No.
It was probably unwise, but he
Probably shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Well, that's the thing is he should if he would. You know who Andrew Wilson is. You know what he says.
He is a known quantity. This is not like no one on Earth went. Wait. Andrew Wilson is saying something transphobic.
Really? Like no. Like if you go into that room as Matt Dillahunty, like that's what you expect. If he wanted to make that stance where he's not going to entertain conversations about his personal life and so on and so forth, fair enough. But he had a responsibility then to not put himself in that situation. If he wanted to make a statement of walking out, it was ill-judged. Do I think he was cowardly? No, I don't think he was afraid of Andrew Wilson.
That's not cowardly. No,
it was a bad performance. It wasn't something he should have done.
Cowardly is such a weird loaded term.
So there must be some way, even for the Christian, that this matter-mind divide can just be bridged. And you might think, well, God just has the power to do that. That might be true, but there still must be a mechanism by which it happens. And there's not, if in principle it's possible for there to be a bridge between a causal bridge, that is, between mind and matter, I don't think it's necessarily obvious which way that would have to go, right? So I just think it's worth sort of pointing that out. But as I say this, especially aware of the channel that I'm on and the kind of viewership that it has, I want to emphasize
Brooks, my dude, your logic levels are so low. You should take this supplement from my sponsor Hardbrain, a logic and testosterone supplement that will make you more logical and make your PP big without increasing your risk of prostate cancer or shorten you.
Thank you, Alex Jones.
Titan Uranus says...
Why couldn't Dillahunty just proven transgenderism?
Doesn't have to prove transgenderism. Have you not seen that it exists? Do I have to prove
I think they mean in the sense of like an ideology with positive tenets, which is not what being trans is. But leaving that aside, Titan says wrong Sunday. You don't start any conversation by insulting someone's partner. Well, that's the point. Andrew Wilson absolutely does, and he's a known quantity. So
yeah,
I feel like he didn't want to do that. Like, you don't do that.
How can consciousness exist if it's material?
Because it's material. It's right there.
There you go.
When God began to create the heavens and the earth, he first needed two jars to put them in.
But seriously though,
I am enjoying the jar meme at this point throughout the rest of this.
Just because it's actually an interesting question. It's actually probably useful talking about very briefly. How can consciousness exist if it's material? What you're presuming is sort of out of hand that consciousness needs to have first of all an existence distinct from matter in order to exist. Now, here's the thing. We identify consciousness as a thing of interest precisely because of how it instantiates in matter. We see things move in particular kinds of ways with a certain kind of consistency. We see inputs delayed for a certain period of time, resulting in unpredictable outputs and so on and so forth to a certain degree. When you ask, how can consciousness exist if it's material? What you are presuming is that the immateriality of consciousness is identifiable with consciousness itself, which some people do, by the way, some very serious people do, but you're treating it as if the conditions of consciousness existing are that it is something distinct from stuff acting in the world. But I would just point out,
if you want to understand, just watch that video, One God, One Jar.
Jesus.
I don't care. I'm digging it. This is my immature, enjoyable Friday. I'll take it.
Rank Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout worst to best.
Which one? Wait. Fallout has like 7 games.
They mean the Bethesda one, Brooks.
Oh, I'm curious. What is your list, Sunday? How would you rank them?
Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout.
Oblivion, New Vegas, 3, 4.
He didn't say
Skyrim.
New Vegas. He said Fallout.
There's
no
Fallout.
You can't just pick.
There's no Fallout. It's Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas.
They mean Fallout 3. They mean Fallout 3.
Then why? No.
Because at the time, in order of release, the latest one precedes the exist. Wait, no, New Vegas came out before Skyrim, didn't it? God damn it! Did it? They later said New Vegas. Oh well, New Vegas easily. It's the only one that's like semi-intelligent writing.
Yeah, New Vegas.
And then Oblivion, because it's got a soul still, and it has Patrick Stewart. And then Fallout, because it's or not Fallout, and then Skyrim, because it's a boring, watered down mess.
Yeah, New Vegas is far more interesting. Very interesting.
It is the ugliest of a lot of them. Like, it's the least interesting to look at.
It's Obsidian. Look, Obsidian, their MO has always been, they don't do the prettiest of the games. They work their asses off. It's a much smaller team. They tend to have lower budgets, but the people there, Josh and the other guys, the phenomenal passion to what they do, like in a huge way. And that's, again, Chris Avalone and the other guys who were part of that whole team. These are the guys who helped build what we know as RPGs today. And like Fergus, who's the CEO of Obsidian, has been around since the beginning.
And then they started making the Outer Worlds.
Consciousness is a clever trick. You are a fictional character in a story the brain tells itself to pilot a monkey without stubbing its toe.
What's weird is that you've actually included consciousness in your description of consciousness excluding consciousness. Just FYI.
Yeah, I tend to ascribe more to the idea that thought is actually not something we do, but something that is reactive to the world happening towards us.
But I mean, that's also the premise of consciousness existing too, isn't it? If it's something that we do...
Thoughts on the evidence of Aquinas levitating.
Who is this fucking chatter?
I don't know, but they're giving us money, so shut up. If consciousness is something that reacts and is not something that we do, then that would suggest that it's an emergent thing that does actually have, at least at some meaningful level, some existence distinct from stuff, which I think we generally agree on.
It doesn't have existence distinct from stuff. It is made of stuff.
Well,
it is the eventual nature of the stuff.
Well,
and it exists as a transitory property of the existence of movement, the same way that movement doesn't exist without measurement of it.
No, yeah, of course. But like the point is, it's not distinct from stuff. It is meaningfully distinct within stuff. It's like the existence of any like organic structure, for example. By the way, like a major element of this too is, and it's actually rather strange when you think about it, because the premise of dualism typically is that consciousness still is capable of dynamism. It's a way of maintaining the immortality of the persona without while admitting like the existence of like transience and material reality. Here's the thing though, you're treating mind in that vein in the exact same way as you're treating matter. It's still a thing that is changeable. It's still a thing that is subject to decay and so on and so forth. And there's this weird unspoken premise that mind has an advantage in terms of longevity compared to matter, but that seems to be actually entirely the reverse. It seems to be like even in the context of like Christian ethics or whatever, the material impinges on mind far more often than the other way around. That's kind of the whole struggle, isn't it, as part of the religion? So when you're saying like when you're saying that something like consciousness, for example, can't exist as consciousness if it's material, it's like, but you already believe that. You actually believe in the primacy of the influence of matter on mind versus vice versa. Your only evidence for the existence of mind is action in matter. That's the thing you're trying to save.
Well, it's the difficulty you run into a lot is the nature of the sort of physicalist or hyper-materialist mechanistic view of sort of the world. And again, this is why I ascribe to the philosophy and work on the work that I do, because when we start talking about sort of what it means for a single thing to exist, an organism, there's an odd shift that happens when we're talking about, say, purely, I want to say inorganic rock matter, materials hitting each other and all of that. There's a shift that happens there to the earliest bacteria that exist and grow in time and die and leave behind traces and sensations in various different ways. There's changes that have happened that as we start moving forward in sort of the evolutionary line or the way things work, the way that time matters to us and the way time becomes part of that sort of consistency of experience and how that sort of grows and shifts into a place where it's no longer purely mechanistic, but much more organic based on the organism. We run into a very interesting, and this is again the foot of the dichotomy they're talking about, the mind over matter shit. We tend to think there is a central mind or an inorganic mind or non-material because it exists seemingly outside of what would be a mechanistic view. But the mechanistic organic sort of dualism is just a matter of sort of losing track of the nature of how we sort of span across emergence from the mechanistic base all the way through to the organic whole.
This is one area where I think we actually probably disagree in an interesting way. Because I agree with everything you just said in terms of the way by which people arrive at dualism. One of the things that I am always a little bit skeptical of, or have been increasingly a little bit skeptical of, is the way in which we infer from the very suspicious ways in which we arrive at a conception of dualism or things like that, that therefore we reduce certain types of things to conceptions of how the ambient stuff works, when that in itself we should be equally suspicious of. So, for example, the idea of mind as a substance being the result of a misunderstanding of different kinds of things working with each other and in concert and reacting to each other and so on and so forth, and for a period of time having some stability, resulting in there being an illusion of selfhood and so on and so forth, as perceived by people in society and to ourselves on reflection. We can discern the ways in which people accidentally arrive at that understanding. For example, as this person in our family in our chat is saying, their evidence for mind being separate is qualia. That is so annoying.
Do you guys ever use AI for your research, reading?
No.
No, I do.
I use it as an efficient way to reorganize notes that I take. Sometimes I've written a big thing like, hey, can you get me a list of like all of the things that I reference here, and then I'll tidy it up afterwards, because it's easier than just going through the list and catching it all myself. But I generally don't research using AI. You can, like, it's like using Wikipedia. It's a really good shorthand way to get tips for where to look. I would not use it exclusively.
If you use it right, I tend to. I built an AI agent the other day, for example, to search the web and look for financial connections between a couple companies that I was looking into for a piece that I'm doing.
But you wouldn't stop there. Like, you'd use it as a tool to like give you a tip. Yeah.
It's great because it's nice to do the busy work. That's the thing, is the busy work is what AI kind of does replace, but it doesn't replace the brunt, creative, brute facts of work, you might say.
Okay. I am skeptical of the idea that because we can trace genealogically the errors that we commit in asserting, for example, the existence of a mind stuff as distinct from a matter stuff. I am skeptical of using that as a basis for then positing the singleness of stuff afterwards. It gets a little bit weirder when you're it's more complicated than that, obviously. But like, I feel like there is a similar...
It feels like you're pointing at what you're thinking thinkers I like do, and they're not doing that. And I feel like that's what you're speaking towards. Because I didn't use that argument here.
Oh, well, I'm not arguing with you here with anything you said. I preface this by saying I agree with everything you just said. I'm more thinking of people who do really interesting work on, like, for example, philosophy of the idea of matter. For example, there's a really good book called The Architecture of Matter, which Oyama actually references a couple times, that sort of goes into this. But like that kind of thing. Because there is a flip side to all of this, where the parasitic relationship of these two concepts of matter and mind on each other also has a negative impact on how we do and think materialism. And I think it kind of results sometimes in people having a notion of the flattening of mind and matter as if it is a lessening of the one to the other. I actually think it's kind of the opposite. I think it's sort of breaking down how there has been an attempt to preserve elements of matter and how we already self-conceive I'm trying to think of how to say this. It's not super convoluted. When people break down mind and matter into two different substances, they're treating mind as an adjacent matter. There is actually nothing fundamentally distinct from how matter behaves in their discussion of mind. That's kind of the basis.
And this is why I have fundamental, the terminology itself creates through the sort of symbolic usage of the word mind something separate from brain. And it's intentional, I believe, because when we talk about what the brain does versus what the mind does, you're talking about two very different things. The mind is necessarily almost the immaterial companion to what the brain does. And
well, even when you're saying like, there's an additional layer to this too, because people aren't just talking about the mind as opposed to the brain. They're talking about now mind as opposed to the mind as opposed to the brain. Now you have like a whole like additional manifold of mind stuff.
And the brain itself is quite fascinating conceptually when you start talking about how it works and how it sort of is this fulcrum of multiple points, the prism through which these things collapse into each other. And there is a sort of brain that, to just take the quote, the brain that says I, but the I is an other. It isn't, the brain and the subject are not the same thing. And when we start talking about the creation of the subject and subjectivity and how it plays into the brain, what they're talking about with mind is much more of that larger bullshit thing, which is a large scale, can fit anything, be whatever we need it to, necessarily almost anti-material view of any of this. And it's a very odd usage of it that sort of makes me, again, deeply skeptical. Does that make sense as I'm saying that?
It makes perfect sense.
Oh, one sec.
I just want people to be aware that there are so many options to discover here and to talk about here. And I hope it becomes clear that, like, I have my hunches. Like, I don't think free will exists. I think I'm an ethical emotivist, but broadly, I'm agnostic and fascinated by the options that are available to us. I mean, it's
He's Joe Rogan.
He's Joe Rogan.
It's
which is so cool. He's Gro Jogan.
Why are takes on bad philosophy actually good?
Because people on bad philosophy are the people who used to spend time on real philosophy subreddits trying to answer questions for people, but because people are thankless piles of shit and they never stop asking the same stupid fucking questions over and over, and then they argue with you when you explain it, that you end up on bad philosophy making fun of the very people making those stupid statements.
Speaking of bad philosophy, we're on the fourth hour rather. Do you want to keep going with this, or do you want to break do you want to to end off talking about Psycho-Patrol, which is what I really want to talk about?
We still haven't even talked about Synecdoche.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Synecdoche, New York tonight.
Okay,
that's going to take 2 hours at least.
Fair enough.
The movie, oh my god, I had to watch it over the span of 3 nights because it's just relentless.
I for those who want my full undigested views, the couple of the guys from Cracked have a podcast, Small Beans, Michael Swaim, and I am his resident Kaufman reviewer, so I joined him for that.
Okay, do we want to talk about Synecdoche, New York?
You don't have to. It's fine.
I want to. I just don't. I don't want to do it rushed in less than an hour.
I'd rather do it
My
with Psycho-Patrol R.
I'd rather give it a solid.
We won't have a discussion around Psycho-Patrol R. It's going to be I find it confusing and not nearly as upfront interesting, and I also don't like how the controls are intentionally difficult and obtuse.
They aren't that obtuse.
I can't get in a mech. I spent an hour and a half. Couldn't get in the mech. Couldn't figure out how. I took the guns off the mech because I was using the button that you use.
You press R.
It's
in the frickin' name, Brooks.
I know. And it's also in the controls, and it didn't work for me because you have to do other things first, apparently. I don't have a lot of love for the game so far, but we'll see. We'll see.
Brooks can't figure out the controls. He's too old. It's too complicated. It's 3D. You can't move the mouse and navigate a joystick.
It literally wasn't letting me in.
What do you think of Dogville?
I don't know what that means. It's a movie. Dogville is a 2003 experimental drama
Lars von Trier film
by Lars von Trier.
And for those who remember my rant about Lars von Trier, I think it was a week ago, might have been 2, where I talked about how Lars von Trier's movie House That Jack Built literally retroactively made all of his movies terrible for me because it showed his structure so plainly. Dogville is absolutely a victim of that. Maybe one of the worst. Maybe one of the worst.
Okay, but do remember, he just said he doesn't like Psycho Patrol R because he can't figure out how to get into the mech. So.
I didn't say I don't like Psycho Patrol R. I just said it's not starting great for me.
Thinking.
And I. So here's the thing: you press R underneath it, nothing happens. You press R standing up next to it, nothing happens. You press R on anything, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's almost like the game treats the mech as a thing that has a cockpit that you have to actually approach.
Which I did.
Frannon black skin white mask equals resentiment.
Resentiments.
And for that statement, you are actually completely getting removed. Enjoy yourself. Fuck off.
Wait, who did? Who did what?
BJP, who sent that, said Frantz Fanon, black faces, white masks is resentment. And that is a racist, awful thing. And I will not have that. Sorry.
I mean, obviously they don't even know what resentment is.
No concept. They just wanted to say things that are racist. Again, they're the ones who were screaming about how the BJP party is.
Oh, great, I remember. Don't worry. I remember. I know who it is.
Hindu nationalist, fascist pieces of shit. And I give room to people, and I really do. And you can have all kinds of dumb beliefs, but the moment that you actually say something that is outright like offensive at that level, you're fucking gone.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's such a stupid statement. I'm kind of fascinated by it. It is such a stupid statement. I'm fascinated by it.
It's the same stuff as where like, and I've had this argument with my mom, who's a lovely person, that we teach people to be victims. That's what we're teaching when we teach racism. We're teaching them to be victims.
Frantz Fanon is the opposite of resentment. Actually, no.
He's deeply emancipatory and very much in the vein of actually not that. So.
No, he's used in. Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, for one thing, one of his major influences, believe it or not, is Nietzsche. So, kind of a major
influence for him.
A little, minor is sort of in there. Really?
The answer is yeah. These people are fucking nuts.
By Sartre, really? No, okay.
And I am going to, just because it is the best, if you have a question of what I don't understand resentment, I'm just going to share a video from the DGQC. I did a half-hour video explaining resentment beginning to end. I'm still very proud of it.
He specifically attacks what I think is interpretable as resentment. That's one of his primary targets. Whatever, it's fine.
So give that video. I just linked to it. It's worthwhile.
Actually, Black Skin White Masks, by the way, is a brilliant book, and it's extremely well written.
Frantz Fanon is an amazing writer. Was an amazing writer.
Don't start with Wretched of the Earth. Start with and don't read.
Start with White Masks. It's fantastic.
Black Skin White Masks is fantastic.
It's a very good read, actually.
He wrote plays. Apparently, I learned that recently. He's a very, 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 very busy guy. Wrote a lot, and he was a doctor.
And he was actually in a war, and actually,
and was a doctor in a war, and then he died of leukemia. Very sad, but
yeah, it's we have no.
And he's one of the few philosophers from that period who doesn't look like a Cruelty Squad character.
It's true. This is fair. I mean, Sartre.
Sartre's more of a Disco Elysium character. I think he's actually I think that guy.
He is literally a Disco Elysium character. Yes.
Yes, because they literally modeled that guy's face off of him, right?
I mean, they had to have, or else it's just.
It looks like Sartre. It just looks like chunky Sartre.
It does.
It sounds like a canned soup.
All right.
Of some kind.
Look, we're gonna do this because I want to know, why was Synecdoche, New York, sad?
Synecdoche, New York was sad because you're watching this poor bastard run away from the hollowness and scariness of the uncertainty of his life into trying to find meaning in this grand production that captures something real, and in the process he stops being a character in his own life, and that's just the blunt narrative. And at the midpoint of it, he's meeting his daughter, who is a comical stranger to him, while she dies, and talks about this stuff, and it's this weird parody of what happens when estranged family members suddenly try to salvage sort of pseudo fake meaning when it's too late, kind of thing. It was just dealt with a lot of stuff that hit very close to home in a very real way that was very, very depressing to watch. The movie itself is not depressing as such, but like it is depressing. Like if you get remotely invested in the characters at all, like it's a really sad movie. Like just you just watch like every single relationship just die in ignominy. The exception of the Hazel one, but even that one's like, okay.
I cry like a baby at the end of it every time. Like just like a baby. It's unbelievable. I don't find it sad in that same way. I do find it not depressing. I find it definitely dark, and I think playing on that side of stuff, but it is a very interesting, to me at least, a very interesting sort of coming around where at the end of all of it, as the world is dying and ending, and he is embraced by himself, sort of. Like there's this weird, odd ending. I don't want to do too much spoilers.
Well, I mean, not even sort of. Like I think that literally is just him by himself. Like it's not just the world ending. That's the thing. The world ending is the ruins of this simulation of the world that he's created for his project inside this enclosed thing that he spent so long crafting that it's changed and lost its end with his own development that he's not even paying attention to anymore.
Yeah, but that's the point of the film. If the character is who we're supposed to embody, which I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all.
Again, he actually can act, so we don't put ourselves in his role. We watch him.
Well, I think moreover though, like that's kind of part of the film. Like they're if you're putting yourself into the role of a character, any character in this movie of all things, you're not paying attention.
There is where they have, and effectively he's reading at some point, and it happens multiple times, the speech that is read over his death. Yeah. And it's read by the actor actually who plays one of my favorite characters from Silicon Valley. And he's genuinely a wonderful comedian before he passed, but he did that role. And the speech that he gives and the talk that he gives is about understanding sort of.
Oh, he died?
Yeah, he died a few.
That was so good.
He's phenomenal.
The movie could have ended there, honestly. Christopher Evan Welch.
Yes, it could have. But here's the thing: like Kaufman was trying to, with this film, bring out something in all of us that we ignore, and we constantly ignore, and we try to do everything to distance ourselves from, and that is our own death. Death is something that is literally around the corner and part and parcel of our daily life. The reality of what we're doing and how we live, the choices we make, the impacts of them. And we have this fallacy, and this actually ties back to what we were talking about with Alex O'Connor, all these silly people with this Christian bullshit and religious bullshit, or even atheist bullshit. But the interactions that we have and the massive way that we all are constantly fucking with each other without knowing it, and we won't know it for 20 years. The way that the end is baked into the beginning, where one of my favorite scenes, and the movie's deeply like fucking wildly metaphorical, symbolic, visual, abstract. But when they're buying a house that's on fire, because that's how they're going to die. They're buying their death. And we don't think of things like that. It's similar to the George Carlin line. People don't tell you that when you buy a dog, you're buying a small tragedy in 15 years. It's that thing that in the end, the beginning is also baked in, and that this cyclical everything is this choice, and we don't know how the choices will lay out. We don't know how we impact. And that line is about this absolute reality that everyone's life is necessarily unsatisfying when you view things that way. Necessarily unsatisfying, that life cannot be satisfying, and that we know this instinctively almost, and that we spend our time running away from that reality. And that's just to quote, because I keep it with me, it's one of my favorites. Everything is more complicated than you think. You only see a tenth of what is true. There are a million strings attached to every choice you make. You can destroy your life every time you choose. But maybe you won't know for 20 years. You'll never even trace it to its source, and you only get one chance to play it out. Just try and figure out your own divorce. And they say there is no fate, but there is. It's what you create. Even though the world goes on for eons and eons, you are here, for a fraction of a second. Most of your time spent being dead or not yet born. But while alive, you wait in vain, wasting years for a phone call or a letter, or a look from someone or something to make it all right. It never comes. It doesn't. Seems to, maybe, but it doesn't. And you spend your time in vague regret or vaguer hope for something good to come along. Something to make you feel connected, to make you feel whole, to make you feel loved. That is so powerful in that film, because this is the human condition that Coffin was trying to identify and run with. And the magic of the film for me is how we build these narrative structures. We do it in our own life. And we literally watch Caden do this, where he builds narrative structures, and he builds narrative structures about narrative structures. And we do this. We all do this. This is the neurotic side of all of our existence under modern capitalism. And Caden does this over and over and over, and it has to go further and out and bigger. Yet, at the end of it, Caden says it was worth it. He does. He was quite happy with how it turned out. And his lines, maybe I've done something different. Like this is existence. And it's the absolute brutal nihilism of someone like Shorin, for example, or Nietzsche on his darkest days. But at the same time, it's the positivist nihilism. It's the happy side of nihilism, where this actually does become a freeing thing, and we see that in other characters. This is how I see the movie. To me, it's
I disagree with that, Reed.
How?
I don't
Brooks,
think
you
he's
sound
freed at
like
the end of
Jung
it.
Peterson.
It's played off as comical. Like,
it is not played off as comical.
But it is played off as comical.
You can interpret it that way.
He has a voice in his ear telling him what to do, right?
Say what?
He has a voice in his ear telling him what to do at the end of it. At no point is
that's
he
not
even
really
the author
comical.
of anything he's doing. Like his statements aren't his own at that stage. He's still play acting a role at that stage.
Yes, because
so when like you say, like he's satisfied.
But wait, it's him. It's
him.
But
so is everybody else, though, is the thing.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not actually him, though, because
that one is much more literally him.
I don't think there is a more literally him. I think they're all as literally him. I think even going back to like the question about like what's the daughter's narrative of why he left? Did he leave because he was homosexual? No, there's no evidence of that in the movie at all. He admits to this, of course, in the conversation. There's this constant playing of like his identity. Is he pretending to be a maid to sneak into his ex-wife's house? Is he actually presenting as a maid, and the film is lying to us about how he actually looks and dresses because he's lying to other people, and so on and so forth? Like,
or is he actually a woman and he's playing a man?
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it to like have a command.
Ellen is a character,
to, like, argue this,
and that actress is phenomenal. But Ellen is incredibly important to Caden's story because it's not so much that like yes, there's the maid play acting and all that, but it's the question is
no, because here's the thing that interests me, and this is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit skeptical of like treating things stated by Caden as things stated by Caden,
right?
And not like in a darker key, like the kinds of things that the role Caden would say because he feels like he has to.
1 sec.
Go on.
India must protect itself from Pakistan at all cost.
God damn.
Ellen as a character is only introduced later as a role and is always reduced to a role that is played by Aiden. But the way Ellen as such is introduced in the story is distinct from all of the other characters that play persons that he encounters in the world. Ellen as such, as the actual real Ellen, as opposed to like Caden, for example, who has Caden number 1, Caden number 2, and so on and so forth. There's the person playing Caden. We don't get that with Ellen. Ellen doesn't have an original in that way. Caden and Ellen kind of converge on the same origin point. Caden visually dominates in that section. And I have to wonder if the implication sort of by absence is that Ellen is the more real than Caden in this case. That's which is I think you generally agree with. So again, like, is this a woman playing a man? I think so. I do not know though if by the end of this movie, Ellen never stops being a woman playing a man. And I think that's a part of that.
But also throughout it, Caden doesn't correct people when they call him Ellen.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's a part of it. Yeah, but like that's also a deliberate choice presented to the audience because he also could correct them and it still be the case. That's an editorial decision to make something important apparent to a viewer.
There are
I think look all I'm saying is like I think there's actually room for genuine regret and failure on the part of this character where he's satisfied. I'm not to disagree with you in terms of you being wrong. When I watched the movie, I took the ending as being different, not in the sense of, oh, it's satisfying because of all the things you said. It actually was good enough. It's like, well, sure. But then isn't there a way in which that is also a cope, and the perfunctory way in which it just clicks off at that moment? Just tells me like the last line said is a woman's voice saying die. It's not.
But the voice has the lines at the very end saying that never. The voice says, "You are Ellen." Never says you are Caden.
Yep.
All her meager sadnesses are yours, her lonelinesses, the gray straw-like hair, her red raw hands, it's yours. It's time for you to understand this.
Yep.
That's what the voice reveals. It's not a, you are Caden, but there is this pause, emphasis, you are Ellen, and that you have taken on all these traits, that these traits are yours necessarily. So there's a weird shift that happens in the film at that point.
But
where
Ellen only comes into existence through Philip Seymour Hoffman's character interacting with other characters. In reality, Ellen never actually is there in reality because Ellen is always something hidden. Even in the very end, you are Ellen is said inside this giant complex apart from the rest of the world. It's never a thing that actually comes out as like nobody recognizes Philip Seymour Hoffman's character as Ellen, except as a role playing a role, right?
Unless the entire movie is actually about Ellen and it's Ellen creating the fantasies of the rest.
Well,
of it.
I think it is, but I think it's also a tragedy in that respect. I don't think it's. I think
tragedy is an interesting. So, and for Kaufman, I think that's perhaps it's again.
I'm speaking very glibly when I say tragedy, so don't read too much into
it. No. But it's Kaufman is a very, very fascinating writer, director, all of that. I don't know how many of his films you've seen. I've watched all of them way too many fucking times because I really, really dig the odd things he does. Ones I've seen least are the ones everyone saw. Everyone saw Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I've only seen it a couple times, but I've watched fucking Synecdoche. It's hard to even describe the number of times, but every one of his films and how he writes has very much a little bit of this nihilistic, sad, inevitable undertone, but it is playing with, I think, a very unique space that is about how we regard this and the freedom that may give us and how we can play with this sort of odd meta narrative that exists within our own lives. And so when we talk about like adaptation, which is one of the best book adaptations I've ever read in my life and I've ever seen.
I want to say that one next.
It's a movie. Kaufman was hired to write about an orchid thief and a big orchid ring. It's a real story, by the way. And he turned in this. And when you watch it, you'll be like, I'm not sure there's ever a movie that will be more meta. I'm thinking of Ending Things is probably his most depressing work. And it is. It is basically, have you ever seen the musical Oklahoma?
Oh God, a long time ago.
I did it.
I saw that one live. Actually, that was.
I was Ali Hakim, so it's a whole thing. But what I'm thinking of Ending Things is about Curly. So the main character, there's kind of this the cool guy in town who gets the girl, and then there's the loser kind of dumb guy who lives in a shack and beats off on porn. That's actually what is in the whole thing.
Do you like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy?
Generally. It's a fine reference. And
Judd
and Curly. And it's about the dumb one and what it means to be that.
Yeah.
That for every successful guy in a musical, for every successful guy in a story, there's the other side. And we don't see that story. We don't see how it turns out and the sadness and what that life is like. And it's about him sort of revisiting his life. Not far off from Synecdoche, to be perfectly honest. Far more surreal in its own ways, but it's very, very good. So good.
I'm gonna save that one for when I'm in a robust state.
It's easily his
still
darkest
raw from
film.
Synecdoche. Synecdoche was rough, but
Synecdoche is tough. I'm thinking of ending things. I've actually had people get mad at me for telling them it was good because it ruined their day.
I think like here's the thing with Synecdoche. I don't think Synecdoche, New York is nihilistic at all. I think it's actually kind of, and you probably know more about the director, so you'll know if he intends nihilism or whatever. But my read of it was not nihilistic in the slightest. My read of it was like, this is someone who, in very like going back to that speech by that guy, I'm really mad that guy's dead now. By that pastor character, where he's talking about like you're constantly like hypnotized by waiting for this thing to come that will be sort of the marker that makes everything worth it, makes everything better, so on and so forth. And as a consequence of being sort of like hypnotized by this desire for some kind of ameliorating point, you miss everything and end up, and this is what Hoffman's character says at the very beginning when he's describing his first play to someone. It's like, look, the irony is that this person is playing a role that is actually the desolation that he himself will end up in at the end. And I think that's kind of what happened here. And the point is not that like, oh, I was happy with the desolation. The point is, like, for me, I took the tragedy to be like, this person had to tell themselves that they were happy with the desolation at the end because that's the role that they had set out for themselves. But they weren't, because Ellen was still just a thing in their head that never actually got to live. And that's the tragedy to me.
Or Caden didn't, or they both lived in their own ways, and we build them out of our own narratives, and we ourselves are built out of a narrative structure that is built inside of a narrative structure that is ensconced inside of a narrative structure. Yeah. This is the beauty. So Kaufman is this. This is what he did. Anomalisa, which is to me a masterpiece of not just filmmaking, but storytelling using a medium.
Sorry, what's it called?
Anomalisa.
I'm sorry, I thought you said Mona Lisa for a second.
I know, it's Anomalisa is it was a Kickstarted film made with 3D printing, and it's a stop motion film.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's so creepy.
And it worked because the medium mattered to how they were doing it. Kaufman doesn't do things like on a lark. This isn't like, I like stop motion. It's like, no, it's part and parcel of it. And it is, again, it's another, I think, really profound film. If you've ever been in a relationship, I have when I was younger, where you are more domineering and experienced, and the person you're with is less that, and they tend to acquiesce and become what you want them to be through, soft power or way relationships work, or just to make you happy. And slowly it actually makes you dislike the person or not be as happy because the person's become kind of what you wanted. But what you actually wanted was someone who's different.
Yes.
And that's what the movie is about, is that experience of what it means to be bored with people and finding someone who's different and what that sort of reality is. Anomalisa is a masterpiece for that. Every one of his films, though, is about getting to something closer than an idea. He uses cinema in a way that I think very few people do these days, because he gets around things. Cinema is intended to do this. This is like one of the things art is able to do, is get around a bald-faced, simple, brute fact, as two morons may say, and the ability for us to instead actually point at things that we find confusing. Someone in the cathedral, your Discord, asked me, because I'm like, how do you rate Tarantino films? And I've named a few, and I said, but then there are the fun ones. And I'm like, but they're like, what do you? Huh? I was like, well, I consider some of Tarantino's films to be cinema, some are fun. Fun ones are I watch for fun, because that's what the feeling I get is like fun. It's cool. It's Inglourious Bastards.
You like Dusk Till Dawn, did you?
That's fun. It's a fun movie, but it's not cinema.
Didn't do it for me.
It's fun. I saw it in theaters. It's a whole thing.
I was born at the wrong time. I would have been like
very much
when that came out. Yeah.
But it's what ends up happening is, for me, There are movies that give you a feeling, and they're very identifiable. And it's like horror, it's genre films, things like that, comedies. But cinema is something that plays with you and gives you complex emotions you can't quite name. To me, that's the power of art. Is I can't tell you how, for example, Enemy, Denis Villeneuve's best film, easily. What is Enemy's emotions that it gave me? It's complicated. Synecdoche, complicated. These are things that you only can kind of have.
I know Dune, the emotion it gave you was...
It gave me like I was poisoned by kombucha. Some things give you odd, and it doesn't have to be all like powerful. It's a Nathan For You's series finale was one of the more emotionally complex things I've seen. And Nathan Fielder has done that with the Rehearsal, Sense. He's very good at this odd feeling. Cinema does that. And this is, I think, Kaufman, every one of his films plays into a very complex set of emotions that are in some ways novel and unique. And Synecdoche, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think does this for me as well. But Synecdoche played very much in that direction and profoundly gave me emotions I don't think I've experienced otherwise in cinema. It's one of the reasons it was my top film for the longest time.
It is very good.
There are just moments in it that are
it's like lots of good literature too. Like there's different ways you can read it. It's not dumb enough to be like simply explicable, and it doesn't like in a sentence anyways. And it's also, I think that's kind of like a part of the power of it, is that it's capable of generating stuff that the director didn't, or the director didn't deliberately intend going into it. It's more fertile than that.
I agree. Well, it's the reason the Daniels, I think, did extremely well with Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is overly complex, but also somehow completely discernible to most people. And it has just philosophical underpinnings that I think you could be taking apart for years. And that kind of stuff is incredible when you actually are able to see it in cinema. It's rare. It's rare. But beautiful.
If we want a really upbeat thing to end on, a little bird tells me that Brianna Wu was just fired.
You know what? Let's make our day awesome.
Hang on, let's see. Is that true though? Hang on, it might change the sadness if I'm wrong.
I can't even Google anything about this awful person.
Brianna Wu forced out of rebellion pack.
Oh no!
This is a Vanguard thing. Hang on, let's take a look at this very quickly. Let's see how fast we can find out what this is, and then I want to go outside while it's still sunny out, because it's very nice out there, and I want to go finish off. I'm on the last chapter of I want to finish on the modern cult of the factish gods for next week, so we can talk about it.
I'd like that. I like that. We can do that. I'm not seeing anything on this though, sadly. Sadly, not finding anything.
Bullshit. It might be bullshit.
Might be on medical leave from what I'm seeing too.
Oh, she's always on medical leave.
Of course she is.
Just wants to look more and more like Michael Jackson. All right.
It is what it is. This weekend, would you like to do a gaming stream perhaps for the Fold?
No, you finally want to play Psycho Patrol R on stream. Finally.
You know what? I'd be down for that.
Okay.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
It's actually good. I also want to start getting into Wilhelm Reich as well. So that'd be fun to do. You know what? I actually think it's doing something kind of interesting with Reich, because the guy who made this is a reader of Nick Land and Deleuze a little bit.
Not really.
And yeah, he is. I mean, I think he's a reader of Deleuze through Nick Land, but
which means not a reader of Deleuze.
Not necessarily. I mean,
yes, it does.
Yeah, sure, but like the point of it is, I have a hopeful suspicion that what he's doing is actually doing the critique of ideology that you would really like through the entire premise of the game.
Say that one more time.
I think he is taking Deleuze's critique of ideology as a thing at the end of Anti-Oedipus, and he is using that as the unspoken premise of the game, in which the critique of Wilhelm Reich, who reduced everything to ideology, is then being taken up as the ideological basis of a fascist regime that is anti-fascist. Maybe?
We'll see.
Ugh.
I haven't seen it yet, but hey, you know, I'm fucking terrible at video games, as you like to say, and it's a skill issue. So what can I say? We'll find out.
Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you possibly at some point tomorrow.
Will we?
I don't know. I haven't decided what I'm doing tomorrow, but possibly. I'd be down.
Could work. Could maybe not. Who knows? Where the fuck is this?
Sunday looks like Humpty Dumpty with hair, but also strangely hairless.
I don't even know. It's chat's been wild. Do you have any idea why chat's been like? We have some of our normal assholes. We've had like extra new assholes have been joining.
No, it's an old
which
asshole.
Is good.
That's convenient for Estelle.
Oh no, Estelle's an old great asshole.
Who's no longer a mod. There. Now who's in control?
Echo Explorers, a Christian guy, More News Daily. See if we were bad faith. Oh my lord. Echo. Daily Dose of Wisdom is who it is, and you just get to enjoy all of that. And you have fun. Sunday. What do we say?
What?
How do we close off? If you like what we do, drop a subscription, drop a like, drop a dono, all that fun stuff. Otherwise, come on, what's your catchphrase?
Otherwise, we will find you and everyone you care about.